element of randomness last time out was one which was always going to throw a cat amongst the pigeons, but it was a chance and is a chance to see drivers really try and put the consolidation down. Now we find ourselves back to scheduled format, scheduled racing. Welcome to the dyno test of what F1 Creator Series is all about. This is the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya, and your Creator Series is going to be in full flow. My name's Jake Sperry, Hayden Gullis alongside me for the ride. Hayden, this is an important round for a number of reasons. It's a chance for those drivers third and fourth, for Racing and Tiamat Marduk, to try and find a way back into a closer realm to battle in this championship, but they also have to contend with the fact that El Rey Geary is on home soil today.
Yeah, he's going to be tough to beat. El Rey Geary has been the favourite really so far for this season, but Alex Gillen has slowly been reeling him back in over, well, really the last race at the Mystery Grand Prix in Qatar. So it's going to be interesting to see how that develops, of course. But as you say, you've got Tiamat Marduk, Raz and Shai. But this now comes back to, scheduled, as you said. And this will really be able to show those drivers who do put in the effort during the week and are able to practice over the week to have that advantage over those other drivers who, maybe performed well at the Mystery Grand Prix because it was brand new for everybody. Practice meant nothing. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, but expect our usual favourites near the front of the grid.
The regular names expected to be up top, but that might not be the easiest challenge that they have. This is the Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya, Hayden. This is a circuit that when you look at it on paper, it is all about those long parabolic style corners, which are intensive on the tyre wear.
Yeah, it's going to really hurt that outside tyre. More so that front left is going to be taking a lot of load over the laps. And it's, it's a lot of laps around here. 66 laps total for a race around this circuit. So it's going to be a very interesting one. A lot of great corners around the circuit as well. And now, of course, in recent years, we've got rid of the horrible chicane. And now it's pretty close to being flat out through those final two corners. But there is something that our drivers are going to have to look out for, which is not patched until Monday. A small little bump that is around the exit, around turn 12, turn 13, that they have to make sure they either avoid or they haven't got the ride height low enough to trigger that bump. If they do so, then it could potentially ruin all of their races. But there's, of course, a strategic element that comes into that, because if you're wheel-to-wheel in that section, you can force another driver into that dangerous area of the track. And I'm sure we're going to be seeing some really interesting play later on.
Yeah, that play is going to be really important to keep in mind, that these drivers do have to deal with the surface conditions out there, and that does not mean weather out there overall. Let's take this moment in time to bring in TK into the conversation here, because this is a really, really cool run. You can say that today it's going to be on like Donkey Kong at this moment in time. This is going to be an all-important race, and you look at the dynamics of all the drivers out there and what they want to be dealing with. Nobody wants to walk away from Barcelona today knowing that it is going to be into a sprint weekend, knowing they've got work to do.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. Last week, throwing that element of randomness into the equation. This week, we're back on the regularly scheduled content here. Obviously, drivers have been aware of the calendar for the last couple of weeks, and they will be prepping and making sure their setup is maxed out to enhance their performance here this afternoon. I've been chatting to some drivers. I've been seeing their streams already. Some are looking forward to it. Some maybe not so much.
Well, this is very much the Marmite-style circuit. You either like this circuit or you don't like this circuit. And Hayden, from a driver's eyes perspective, it goes down to the fact that you're running higher downforce. It's a lot tougher to get closer and make overtakes. And sometimes it does have that feel of being quite hot lappish, which favours some drivers compared to others.
Yeah, certainly so. But, some drivers might take that risk and feel like they have that confidence through the corners. They run a little bit less aero to get that straight line speed down the main start-finish straight, because it's a long straight at the end of the day and a great opportunity to make an overtake. If you can just hold on to the car behind, get the DRS, be within that 1 second, you're going to really reap those rewards if you can make that overtake down to turn 1. However, if you're out of the train, then it's going to be very, very difficult to get back into it. So a lot of tactics in terms of setup is going to be on the show later on.
Let's take a look at where we have been and where we are going. over the course of this season. It's been a very tough start. Monaco into Canada, and then, of course, our mystery Grand Prix. It is Spain, of course, and then a week later, Austria, before the break week comes into play. But really, TK, if you look at this entire season that's going on, I would say that you've got a prelude and a close, and it's a longer close from that break week onwards. So getting a good start to the season here, these first 5 rounds, I think has been paramount to certain drivers feeling comfortable.
Indeed, that second half of the season is going to be absolutely critical for some of our drivers. It's a slightly longer run out until we see the season come to conclude in Monza, of course, for the Italian Grand Prix. But I think it all comes down to consistency at the end of the day. It's not necessarily how many wins or how many podiums you get. It's making sure you get those crucial points week in, week out.
And Hayden, coming off of Qatar, of course, at the Losail circuit last time out, it feels like a hybrid transformation for drivers in terms of setup. They won't necessarily have to change too much from week to week in terms of their practice, because it is very similar in terms of how the circuit sets itself up.
Yeah, it is, but there's always that consistency that's going to come into these races, and that is the important thing. That's really separates the best drivers in the Creator Series. It's those who can be more consistent. All these drivers are quick, and they can all pull out a very, very good lap, but it's doing that 66 laps in a row, no mistakes. That's what's going to put you near the top. So those guys who have put in that little bit of effort can maximize those race lines, can, you know, sort out that little bump that's going to be around the turn 12, turn 13. If they can, you know, manage that the best, then that's going to put them up at the front, and practice is going to really come into that element. So let's see who's done the most today.
Let's absolutely do so, but let's talk championship, because that's why we're here. We love a good championship. We love a good battle up at the top. And Hayden, you get a look at these top 4 right now. Elray Geary, Alex Gillen, Tiamat Marduk, Racing Chai. Those 4 are the main players of the game that we'll keep an eye out on today. But you look down at that list, 5th through 7th, and you can maybe even put Matty in that list as well, of drivers who would love to get a strong result today and move back within 1 race wins distance.
Well, I think Matty would love a strong result. He had a very good weekend last time out in Canada. As he said in the cooldown room, he cooked, and he certainly did, you know. A lot of points scored in both races. But with Matty, consistency is something that has let him down in the past. It could be something that he has overcome for this season. And if he has, then maybe he can get himself back in the mix, because it's a long season. And there are plenty of opportunities that drivers are, you know, maybe going to miss race weeks. We've seen it so far with Tom 97, missed the opening round, but has, you know, sort of come back slightly in the last 2 races. And that's really what it's going to fall down on. So if Matty can get that consistency and shows up for the majority of races, we'll have a good opportunity. But my eye really is on Tom 97. Probably one of the strongest drivers in the field. Makes the odd mistake, and I think that's what lets him down. But of course, it's his consistency in order to turn up for races. That is also something that lets him down. But if he can be there, he can surely be one of the strongest contenders. And he's not too far away. The way this point system works, it allows the championship to be a lot closer. And we've got a long season of 13 rounds total. It's going to come down to the end, and I think there's going to be a lot of drivers involved in it.
Absolutely. 25 points still the margin for a victory, but it's 20 for second, and then it's 2-point increment down to about 8 points, and then you've got the opportunity to say 1-point increment down after that. There is, of course, the fastest lap bonus point. There is, of course, an eye out on pole position as well. And on top of that, those intermediate points that you get over the course of qualifying, making sure that every session, Hayden, is must watch.
Yeah, intermediate pole position, it might come down to that at the end of the season. You know, if it goes down to 1 point, somebody's going to look at that qualifying session where they got the intermediate pole position point and said, you know what, that's where I want it. And so it's going to be very important, but it can be risky at the same time. You're not on the right tyres for the track conditions if it's going to be a dry qualifying session. And the opportunity to overheat those tyres and make a mistake, especially around a circuit like this where there are a lot of long corners, a lot of load is put through the tyres. It's very easy for the car to snap away from you, end up in a barrier, and your qualifying session is done. However, we have also seen time and time again drivers who have made a mistake in qualifying being near the back, but able to recover with the chaotic nature of these Creator Series races.
And what we expect from a track like this that does get incredibly hot, that does have a lot of high load, and I'm going to bring TK back into the conversation here for this one, is that you are going to see strategy become a really important point in terms of what this race makeup is all about. This is going to be a case today where you're looking around, you're thinking, is it a one stop? Is it a two? Is it even potentially a three? It is that sort of game that we're out there today, just because of the fact that you're dealing with so much wear and drivers don't want to be hitting that 60% threshold, which will be so easy to hit around here.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Of course, with the new game comes the new tyre model as well. The tyres wearing out a little bit quicker than some of the drivers anticipating, especially when you compare it to last game as well. So it'll be interesting to see how those strategies have come through, how they've developed over the course of the game cycle as well. And I think, as you said, we might see the 2 or even a 3-stop strategy here this afternoon.
We very much could, and that's what's going to throw things in through the loop. And those drivers who are a little bit further back may have the opportunity to try and run roughshod in and around the middle of the race and give themselves that chance to try and push forward. So that's going to be something worth keeping an eye out on over the course of this race. We will be jumping over to qualifying and the racing very, very soon. But when you're looking at the championship up at the top here, Hayden, you're seeing that El Rey is finding that consistency in main races, hasn't fallen outside of second all season long. That consistency is something that's going to really pay dividends between now and the end of the season. So in your opinion, who do you think is really up at that top end, and who do you feel needs to step up?
I think El Rey Guri, as you said, is up at the top end. He spoke to us at the start of the season after getting off to a flying start in Monaco, getting that race win victory, and said, that's my goal this season. It is to be consistent. Even if I don't feel like I've got the pace to win this year, in terms of winning that race that weekend, I'm not going to push myself to try and get the win. I'm going to take the maximum amount of points that I can do, and he's been showing that so far this season. So for El Rey Guri, it's been very strong. I think for someone who really needs to pick it up and has dropped the ball massively, has missed out last weekend at Qatar in the Mystery Grand Prix, but from the first 2 races that they have done, have not showed any promise from 23 to 24, and that's going to be a championship contender. And I say this a lot, and I do feel bad for being maybe overcritical on them, but it has to be said. F1 23, mSkyZ was one of the strongest drivers on the grid, challenged for the championship year or season after season. Now we come to F1 24, 10 points total in Monaco, which got a little bit lucky with the late safety cars and of course getting it all pulled back together nicely and not having as many penalties as other drivers. But then 4 points in round 2 at Canada, massively off the pace. Again, lucky because there were only about 15 runners, I think, total in that race. It was guaranteed that you were going to score points. So let's see how he fares today. Round 4 at Spain. He's had a week off, maybe a chance to really reassess this season, find where he's lacking that pace, and maybe he can come back stronger and be the mSkyZ that we're so used to seeing.
And that's something, TK, that really doesn't get talked about enough when it comes to a series like this. It's an adaptability factor on the first series that you've got on a brand new game. It is not a direct one-to-one translation game to game that you are going to be automatically quick. Yes, you have pace and you can rise to the top and overcome maybe shortcomings in a handling model or something of the like. But that opportunity to say, who is the most adaptable? This is why I feel like this is maybe the truest championship that we're going to get in at least another year.
I think you're absolutely right in what you've just said. We saw out at Monaco some of the drivers potentially struggling to grasp their hands on the new handling model. And again, as the season's gone on so far, I appreciate we're only just a couple of rounds in so far, but it's certainly been an uphill struggle for some of our drivers. Some have taken it to ducks to water this afternoon, but I think as the season goes on, we might see those gaps start to decrease between the drivers, that competition getting ever so slightly closer as well. And that is going to be the true test as we get towards Monza, as we get towards the season finale. I reckon we might see all 20 drivers finishing very, very close together.
Now, this is a circuit that has been in inception since 1991 and was very quickly inaugurated onto the Formula One calendar. It's a circuit that, for the longest time, was this beautiful challenge. They put in a chicane and they've said, you know what? We've got the style of racing now where we can push back on everything being tight and slower, and we can have that more flowing nature. Hayden, that's giving drivers a much better opportunity now to make the overtake at turn number 1 out on this circuit at Elf. that is going to be, I believe, the greatest place we're going to be seeing overtaken, because you've got that DRS zone that's there to aid, but you can be upwards of 7/10 of a second back coming out of the final corner, New Holland, and you've got a great chance of that slingshot to give you that overtake.
Yeah, you don't have the chicane anymore to kind of unsettle the car, and especially the way that the camber of the corner worked and the sausage curbs on the inside of both parts of the chicane. It was very easy to unsettle the car and lose momentum, whereas now it's all about the exit off of, I believe it is turn 11 or turn 12. Slingshot yourself out of that one through the final 2 turns. You know, the penultimate one's flat out. The other one is just a little lift or a little drop down of the gear, but you can keep that momentum to be right on the back of the driver in front. If you can do that and be, really tucked up behind and right on the gearbox of the car in front, it's going to be an easy overtake down and towards turn 1. And that's going to be the difference today in terms of what wings drivers are running. If they're going to be running that lower aero, then they can afford to be a little bit further back, afford to, allow themselves to catch up in the middle of the lap with that DRS zone, lose a little bit of time in that third sector, but just about be enough of DRS range. And then, of course, you can overtake down to turn 1. So it's a good opportunity for drivers to get that move done, and hopefully we do see overtakes throughout the field. Other than that, it's going to be great will-to-will action that hopefully these guys can provide us.
And we are in for a treat. We will move on down to Montemelo here in Spain, because we are soon set. And that is going to be really, really important. The 18 minutes that will be there in qualifying, Hayden, to try and put that best lap forward. And we talk about qualifying, and qualifying over the last few years has felt like this certainty that you put the car on pole position. It is pretty much a golden ticket to the chocolate factory. You will win this race. It's not a guarantee to win a race. It gives you the best possible chance, though.
Yeah, usually we see the winner coming from the top 3 in qualifying, but there is certainly that opportunity that if you do make a mistake, you can recover. Most of the time, it's recovering to a top 5 finish, maybe scraping a podium. We don't necessarily always see it where drivers go from last to first, otherwise a lot more drivers will be taking qualifying a lot more casually. But if you can find your way through that field, if you do make a mistake in qualifying, then of course you're going to have that chance in the race. But yes, as you say, if you're up at the front in qualifying, if you're in that top 3, you are going to have a great opportunity for the race win. And it's all about looking around at the other drivers who qualify up there, because you need drivers who can work together. If you are up at the top 3 with another driver who is fighting you in every single corner, it's going to really allow the drivers behind that to have the opportunity to catch up, to overtake, and to get in that fight. Whereas if it's 2 drivers who want to swap positions back and forth, so one lap I'll be in front, the next lap you be in front with DRS off each other, and we'll work our way further away from the grid, then it allows you that little bit of comfortability that if a safety car doesn't come out, then it's just you and them fighting out for the last couple of laps.
Let's talk intermediate tyres, because this is Alex Gillen that we see on screen here on those intermediate tyres, trying to get the best lap forward. You've got a lot less grip to play with, because it's effectively a partially grooved tyre that you've got, which is made to make sure you clear as much standing water off of the circuit. And that tyre profile, Hayden, is a little bit bigger. So effectively all of that work underneath the car, that car's going to be a little bit higher in terms of what you're expecting. So that's going to mean that these drivers aren't getting maybe as much as they would want to out of the ground effect.
Yeah, certainly so. And like the tyres feel fine in the first couple of corners. Like Alex will hit the brakes now, throw the car in and be like, okay, this feels just slightly worse than a soft tyre. But as the lap goes on, the tyres start to overheat more and more and more and more. And the lap time, just these tyres just get slower as the lap goes on. So the start of the lap, it's okay. It's not great, but it's okay. But as the lap goes on, it's going to become more difficult. And that's when the mistakes potentially can come in over towards the end of the lap, in towards the left-hander now. Nice and tight on the entry at the apex as well. And use a little bit of the runoff curve. There's a car in front of him, but that won't get into the way. They get nicely out of the way on the right-hand side. This is always a very difficult corner through the left and the right there. Very easy for the car to step out on you. And of course, you rise up the hill before the DRS straight. Again, another opportunity for the car's rear end to step out. Elroy Guri goes its fastest lap time so far on the intermediates with a 14.8. Alex Gillen, though, it has been a tidy lap so far. Not necessarily fast, but sometimes the smoothest laps are the fastest ones. And we might just see that from Alex Gillen as he comes into the final corner now.
Smooth is fast is something that is often touted in terms of how you get that pace. Gillen over the line, 15 on the nose. It's going to be short, a 1/10 of a second then. Try and get that time in. Tom puts it just about 400ths of a second adrift then with those initial times. And this is everybody thinking, right, we've got an opportunity. One championship point does not change the world today. It changes the world though, Hayden, right at the end of the season where every point means a little bit more.
Certainly so. As across the line comes that guy Vince on intermediate tyres. It's a 15.1. Now they only have till the 12-minute mark to get this lap time in. So 1 minute and 10 seconds remaining as Nogueira goes and put it at the top with a 14.2 on those intermediates. That extra point is going the Mercedes driver's way at this stage of qualifying. El Guri might have a chance for one more lap, might not be able to do it, might not have the battery charged up. It's really the case of you just have one lap to go for it. Track evolution is a thing, so to try and get that lap time as close to the 12-minute mark as possible is going to give you that little bit of an advantage. Around the final corner comes Tiamat Marduk across the line, and it's not quite fastest, but it's a 14.4.
Well, you take a 14.4 out there in terms of a time. It's a great effort there, but Nogueira putting it all on the line. And that Mercedes there, a lot of smoke coming around there over at Sayat Corner. Turn 5 out there down the hill. Very easy to get it wrong. And flicking through, we are on board with GB68, 15 seconds away. I think it's going to be a little bit short here in terms of time to get what's wanted on the board there, Hayden.
Yeah, he's left it too late. Unlike, you know, the end of the qualifying session, if you started your lap, you're allowed to finish it in intermediate qualifying pole position point award. It's not the case. If you come across the line, you are going to be too late, and it is now past the cusp. Nogueira has got the extra point to his name, but what would the lap time being good enough for from GB68? Would it even be enough for the fast lap? No, it wouldn't have got the point either way, but close to his teammate, just showing that Aston Martin very, very strong so far this season. Here is Unstopped Rob making his debut for Season 7, has been unable to take part so far this season due to PC and technical issues, but is back behind the wheel finally, and I'm sure there's a lot of people watching at home that are glad to see Unstopped Rob back driving in a Formula 1 car in the Creator Series. Puts it into third. Of course, that won't count because it's past the 12-minute point. Another driver as well who is back once again is that guy Vince, making his debut for this season as well.
A lot of drivers, even though they'd have been outside the 6-minute mark, you would have felt would have wanted to complete that lap anyway, just to get a sighter and an acclimatization to the track conditions out there. And Infratic is going to be one of those such drivers looking to get this on an in-lap to jump in. Every single second as well on these intermediate tyres, Hayden, that they find themselves is less time that they'll spend on what they want. Tiamat Marduk in terms of laps played it too safe, and sometimes you will get that. There's one thing that these drivers are looking at on intermediate tyres. The one thing they don't want to do is pretty much lose their entire qualifying by binning it.
Certainly so. There's no need to over push once you're past that 12-minute mark, because you're just going to lose time, as Unstopped Rob is on an in-lap at the moment, so he'll be coming into the pit lane. But there's two reasons really to get as much running on this intermediate tyre as possible. You get that banker lap in, as you've said, and you might be like, okay, at home, but what's the point? The soft tyre is going to be so much quicker. Why would that matter? The banker lap isn't going to be worth anything in qualifying. I mean, there are drivers already that are unable to set lap times, and track limits are important around here. It's easy to push and overstep the mark a little bit too much, but the main reason is to have a green delta up in your top right-hand corner of your screen. If you see it green, it gives you that little bit of extra, that little boost, a little bit of motivation just to keep on pushing more and more and more over the lap. Because as soon as, usually when you're comparing it to a soft time, as soon as it just drops red ever so slightly, you'll then feel like you're chasing the lap rather than being as comfortable as possible and able to push in a more natural way. So that's one reason, of course, why they're doing it. Another reason is to save as many soft tyres as possible. Those drivers that we see usually at the front of the field are going to want as many tyres for that Q3 session, for that shootout for pole. But of course, to keep some soft tyres if they need it for a late safety car that, of course, comes out as well. So Alex Gillen is going to be our first driver to set a lap time on the softs.
Yeah, and so charging around now through Renault corner, turn 3, the long left-hander, and now flicking up 7th gear. Try and spot the run here at Repsol. Down to 4th, always got to hug on the inside and then move right to the outside of the circuit, hugging the limit of grip. Down the hill, one of the slowest sections, a little bit of lock up there on the front left, going through Seat. Now flicking through turn 6, Verth corner is next. So difficult, you need all of the aerodynamic downforce. It's so easy to tank slapper through this section. Campser up the hill, off camber, left, right-hand bend, and you're always wanting to fall off left, and this is where you get the DRS zone, and then charge over towards Lekaitsa. Turn 10, and rushing around to Bank Sabadell. Here, these confluent left and right, long 180-degree rights, and then the 290s looking to charge. That is going to be what they're dealing with, that bump trying to rush on through at Europe Car. And here at New Holland, this is where the charges to the line. That's what we're going to be expecting here. 111.9 on the board. Alex Gillen looking to comfortably qualify his Haas through at this point in time, with Tom down the Alpine looking to see what his true pace is a reflection of. 12 flat, once again, finding himself a 10th short.
Yeah, real light was flashing there on the Alpine as he came around the final corner. Whether Tom just used a little bit too much of his battery in the opening stage of the lap and then ran out a little bit towards the end. So potentially more time to find there from the Alpine driver. His teammate Zafso, both Alpines not had a lot of luck so far this season. Things got a little bit better for Zafso last time around at Qatar. You know, finally managed to get a good amount of points on the board. But for Tom, it's not really gone his way so far. Only 1 point so far this season for him. So he'll be looking to get off the mark and show what he really is capable of. Both Alpines very close to each other there. A 12.0 from Zafso is a 5-place grid penalty for Punju, who is stepping into Williams this weekend. That is not going to help his chances stepping in for curbs for this race. 5-place grid penalty. And if he does get out of Q2, it's going to be hanging over his head for the race later on.
El Rey Geary up to the top on an 11.5, putting an absolute notice to everyone going through. We are getting word that GB68 was having some wheel issues out there. He's currently on his outlap at this moment in time. As we focus on Nogueira at this point, these times flying in, looking to try and break through once the checker flag comes out. We're 6.5 minutes away from that, but Nogueira's got some pace today. That is second position there, and that will feel, at least at this moment in time, a bit more comfortable there. Here's Scott, and he's looking to push with his kick stake Sauber.
Yeah, it's business as usual up at the top. Nogueira and El Rey Guri. How many times have we seen that so far this season? F1 24 seems to be those guys' games. But Nogueira, of course, seems to drop the ball a little bit in the races. Hopefully for him, he can keep his eye on it this time around. F1 Scott bails into the pit lane. Currently P9 in this session. Good enough as it stands, of course, to get in to Q2, to make it into that top 15, of course, that make it through to Q2. But for those drivers like El Rey Guri, Nogueira, they could be looking at this stage and thinking, do you know what? We might be safe here. Let's retire. Let's go into Q2 already. Let's save the tyres.
Yeah, and sometimes it is all about that tyre life. Taking a little bit of an excursion there is one of the Ferraris, so that would have been M13 Gaming, who had moved up to 3rd in qualifying. Safso feels comfortable there and is going to retire from the session. So too Alex Gillen. So that's going to be, you know what, we feel like we've got enough then done in the back pocket. We're not going to improve. But I'm just looking around at all of these times that are going through, and I don't think there is that much safety. A number of drivers haven't necessarily pulled everything together and put their best lap forward on the board. But you're looking at that guy, Vince. Here's someone who's currently on the bubble out there in 19th place. Would love to be a little bit quicker than that. And 13th, I'm not sure that's going to be good enough.
No, I think that guy Vince definitely going to have to go again. And again, another driver whose rear light was flashing around the final corner. So again, not quite making the most out of the battery, and something he needs to assess for the next lap. GB68 splits the two retirees. If I was El Rey Guri and Nogueira, okay, yeah, I'm happy. I'm going to retire. I'm safe. There's no way I'm getting beaten by, you know, another 15 drivers. But for Alex Gillen and Zaf, so straight away, as soon as they retired, Rob and Tim at Marduk both jumped them. Now GB68 has split the two of them. I think there's certainly a chance for a lot of drivers to potentially relegate those drivers. Tom 97 still yet to set a lap. Perya's still yet to set a lap. You've got Infratic. Mr. Dell can set a blistering lap time over 1 lap. Okay, usually DNFs in the races, but he's great over 1 lap as Perya slides it through the right-hander there. But they are not looking safe at this stage of qualifying. Perya through the final corner, drifts it out a little bit wide, a little bit of understeer there. Down towards the line though, and it is good enough for a little bit of an improvement, but only up into P15. Still not quite safe.
Well, you have to question there through Bank Sabadell how much of that was going to be quite huge as they go through. We got drivers out here on debut as well. Twitch Kalen, you've got to keep an eye out on him in terms of what he's going to put together. Tom 97 down in dead last 20th is not what he would be expecting. 3.5 minutes to go, and you feel it's so late right now, Hayden, that if this lap does not get pulled together, he is going to really struggle to get in, out, and going again. He might have to go a second lap on that set and put him at a huge disadvantage.
Certainly so if he were to make a mistake, but Tom 97 has the experience. He has the pace underneath him, and I'm sure he can pull out a lap here through the final corner. A lot tidier than we saw from Perya as Tom retires, and the other Tom tops him and goes to P8 in the RB. A good lap there from Tom 97, and a lot of drivers very, very close together on the 12.0. So there is potential for those drivers further down. Meraki, Skyzy, as I've mentioned earlier, that guy Vincent Perya do have pace as well. So let's see how this all unfolds in the last few minutes. There's 2 minutes 40 left on the clock. Still a lot of drivers in the pit lane. They're going to need to get out very quickly. As teammate Marduk, another driver who thinks they're safe and is retiring from the session.
Yeah, so your 5 out currently are Perya, Matty D13, Mr. Dale, Punju, who of course has got a 5-place grid penalty, and Infratic, who I don't think has set a representative lap on those tyres at this point. He's currently on his out lap, and this is what he's going to be struggling with out then in terms of what he's putting together. He's got to find a bit of clear space, and sometimes when you've got drivers going out for that mad scramble, Hayden, it's so easy to not have the right space there. M-Sky-Z on a flyer right now through Repsol.
Yeah, M-Sky-Z out of sync with a lot of the other drivers who will have to be careful of any traffic getting in the way of his lap. Through the left-hander there, and then down in towards what is a very tricky chicane. The car can step out on you so easily if you hit the apex, which M-Sky-Z fails to do so. That is a lot of lap time left on the table from the Kick Sauber driver as they come down now in towards what used to be the old hairpin. Now it's a bit more of a open corner, and Skyzy loses the rear end. That's qualifying done there for Skyzy, and he's going to have his fingers crossed now, hoping that no one else can beat him. There is still time left on the clock though, so if you can pull the battery back up, build up battery in those last remaining corners, maybe, just maybe, you can get one more lap in. Here's Infratic though on a hot lap.
Yeah, so this is where you're going to have to be switched on. 1:10, lots of drivers behind, everyone behind M-Sky-Z on an outlap or a flyer at this moment in time, and it's going to be a mad scramble. Again, the front left gets itself locked up down at Sayat. We're seeing a lot of that at the moment, and you've just got to find the finest line possible around this circuit. It's a tightrope in terms of getting the ultimate amount of time unlocked. Over to Lakaitsa, turn 10, out on track, and just having to take maybe a second bite of the cherry into the corner there. Goes Infratic. He's got to be careful about that. Through Bank Sabadell, that's a lot more neater and nicely put together. And there in the Scuderia, how is he going to find his time? 14.8 currently is not representative. We'll see what this is over the line. It's 11th at 12.072. Crucially ahead of M-Sky-Z, you'd feel, has a little bit more safety, but that clock is ticking down, and these times are going to be flying in. There you can see Scott moving only to 13th, so might be a driver in trouble. Matty can only put himself to the bubble. Meraki looking for a little bit of safety in the Williams. Checker flag out then here in Q1, and you're going to have drivers in. Oh, massive kick of oversteer off the exit, having to wrestle the car like an octopus in a washing machine. There, that was always going to be key. Kalen goes 7th fastest. Meraki goes safe in 10th, which puts Matty in trouble in this lap, and now Scott in trouble in this lap because that guy Vince now moves up into P6. So question now, Red Bull and Mr. Dale, can you find anything to move up and gain an extra position or two here in the end of Q1? Heading to the line, it's time improvement 6/10, but that's not good enough to find position. Perya in trouble right now in the V-carb, and that could be something just to keep in mind in terms of him. 18th will not be what the doctor's ordering. 13th's a lot better. That will put both Kick Salvers in trouble, but got an extra lap. So is there enough in there? Answer's going to be no, and that will be that then in terms of the qualifying efforts of Q1. So Punju, Mr. Dale, Matty, and both the Salvers here on M-Sky-Z and Scott here, Hayden, are out.
Yeah, the big shock so far this season on the new F1 24 game. M-Sky-Z struggling once again in qualifying. I said that maybe having that week off was a chance to figure out what's going wrong, getting back to where he has been previously, and especially on F1 23, but of course hasn't quite shown there with M-Sky-Z now out of this session. Scott out as well. Matty D follows them too, with Mr. Dale and Punju did have a 5-place grid penalty, but that is not going to affect his qualifying position at all because he is right at the back of the grid.
Cannot start from 25th position in a 20-car race. So, unfortunately, that 5-place grid penalty will be your more last, I guess, is the way that it's going to be all set up and together. So that is Q1 in the books. Very quickly, I believe we've got a little bit of an eye on what happened then in Q1 for Punju, which pretty much put the nail in the coffin. TK, what happened here?
It was a really unfortunate instant. Well, I say instant, it wasn't really an instant. It occurred as Punju was coming down, crossing the start-finish line just to finish his lap. And you can see on the right-hand side, ever so briefly, GB just coming out of the pit lane. The two never made contact. They never even came together. But Punju, nonetheless, got a 5-place grid penalty for so-called illegal blocking. So I can understand the frustration here from Punju. Of course, that won't drop him any further down the order, but definitely going to be annoying.
Well, his face told 1,000 stories in terms of what he was looking at. Shock and surprise was very much there. And it's not often that you find someone coming out of the pits, going onto an outlap, and you get blocking for that, Hayden. So that would have been a little bit concerning in terms of what Punju was hoping for.
Yeah, for him, I'd be glad that I am starting at the back, because I would be very annoyed if I were to lose places for something like that, because I didn't see if there was anybody else on the start-finish straight behind him. I know, of course, GB was there on the right-hand side coming out of the pit lane, but if anybody was on a lap maybe behind and there was blocking there, but it didn't look like there was anybody. It was just between GB and Punju. So, yeah, I'd be very hard done by. So for him, I'm glad that he's starting already at the back of the grid, and it did not affect his qualifying position at all. For Punju, over the course of the race, is just going to have to be about being consistent. Of course, not in F2 this season, being out of F1 for a couple of seasons. And it is a really, really competitive grid there compared to what Punju has experienced 2-3 seasons ago. I did it last season. I did a season of F2, was competitive in F2, came to F1. And whilst I could fight for those positions between P15 and P10, it was just so competitive to really break any further than that. And, you know, that really just shows the competitive nature and how strong these drivers are in the grid. And if you take a bit of time out or you don't put in the practice or that effort, you're going to get found out quite quickly. And you're going to have to rely on competitive or safety cars and red flags and stuff like that to really get yourself back in the race.
Well, we're seeing Safso with the most aggressive tyre warming I think I've seen in a very long time, trying to get the heat in and getting everything sorted together. From 20 to 15, Hayden, as we start seeing now these first flying laps of Q2 go through. From 15 now to 10, it's about making sure that you have got this lap through. And we saw 15 to 10, in fact 15 to 5 by about a 10. This could be anybody out.
Yeah, certainly so. I mean, look at the names that we have here. It is very difficult to call who is going to be those 5 drivers not making it out to that top 10, to that shootout for pole position. Again, usually in Q1, you can look at a few drivers and say, Punju, unfortunately, is probably going to be down there. Matty, most likely as well. Dale can be up there, but it's very easy for him to make a mistake and to drop down, so he's potentially likely to be knocked out in Q1. But this cluster of drivers, I think you can say who are going to be safe and definitely in. I think Nagera is going to get through. I think El Rey Guri is going to get through quite comfortably. But for the rest of them, it can be quite difficult. I'm looking at Meraki, for example. He hasn't really He hasn't really shown me much this season that gives me the Meraki of F1 23 as well. Not struggling as much as MSkyZ has been, but still not quite being that driver fighting for race wins, fighting for pole positions, always setting the fastest lap times, as Zafso goes and puts it on the front row at the moment on a used set of tyres, surely. But on a brand new set of tyres, that's got to be GB68 with a 1:11.5. A very strong lap, and something that potentially he can sit back and look at that and go, okay, cool, that's my Q2 done. Let's get into Q3.
If you can get through on a set of used tyres, it's a massive, massive boon when it comes to qualifying in Q3 and the race. The issue you've got is that if you are stuck on a fresh set of tyres and you don't get through, what have you used that set for? Alex Gillen goes second fastest then on 11.8. So those drivers who feel like they've not got that comfort, that's going to be worth keeping in the back of the mind. Tom 97 third, that guy Vince in fourth, and Pratic currently fifth position overall. Watching Tom here on this straight, up at 7th gear, into 8, and really rattling against the curb on the outside, heading to Lekaitsa turn 10, and that very much is an interesting look at how drivers feel with their confidence levels when they hit the brakes. Obviously, if you're out that far wide, you're trying to take as much track as possible.
Yeah, you want to maximise the speed that you can carry through the corner, of course. And the best way to do that is to run as far out wide, open the corner up as much as possibly, and as well as trying to cut it as much too. And then extending out wide as much as you can possibly get away with too. You want to utilise right up until those track limits around here, and that is where you're going to find the maximum amount of time. Tom does go quickest, another 1:11.5, just pips GB68 by about 5 hundredths of a second there. So very close between those two drivers, but the lap times are going to tumble. There are a lot of drivers who have been out on used sets so far, will be out on a new set later on in this Q2 session, and will be really trying to fight, of course, to get themselves into the top 10. What do we reckon about Unstop Rob and that guy Vince? They've come into this race, they haven't done any running so far this season, but have both got into Q2, and we're looking very good at that end of that Q1 session. Do you reckon they've got a good chance for Q3?
I reckon they do. I think that you're looking here at these two drivers who maybe haven't put in the hard yards publicly, but privately, I think they have been getting themselves into a position where they feel like they're comfortable to go out and really challenge in terms of this season and put it all together. Watching on board with Nogueira out there looking for a flying lap, I am sure we're going to see some amazing action in terms of how they go. But a number of drivers here have waited till about 9 minutes here, if that, to try and get themselves through. Outlaps going for pretty much everyone on the top. So you're looking at El Rey, TMF Marduk not wanting a lap. You've got M13 Gaming not looking for a lap on the outlaps only. So saving that set of tyres by not wanting to go out on a set of the hard tyres. That's something to keep in mind. Again, a little bit of a lock there through at Seat turn 5. We're going to see quite a bit of that over the course of the running. But Nogueira at the moment, I would say, is putting together a decent, respectable lap.
A very strong lap. A few mistakes that we have spotted just creeping in there. So not the potential that we usually see from Nogueira, but, you know, I'm sure he's going to rein that back in, and it's going to be right up at the front as this qualifying goes on. Nice and tight through the right-hander. Much better than we saw from Tom earlier on in this session. Just moved slightly away from the curb on the run down to the penultimate corner, and then full send into the final corner. Rounds that on the power. DRS open across the line. Good enough for third place at the moment, 11.6. I think we'll possibly have to go again as Kalon there, just losing the rear end out of that left-hander, just fighting the car slightly. Of course, this is their debut in the Create Series. I don't believe they have taken part in a single race so far this season, so it'll be interesting to see what Kalon can do over the rest and the course of this race weekend. Puts himself up into 6th place, very respectable position, a 12.0 that we've seen once again, but that was on the bubble for Q1, so I'm expecting to see faster times in this Q2 session.
Well, if you don't think it's safe, you might have to go out again, and you always think that anyone inside top 5 is going to be there. I would put Alex Gillen maybe on the cusp of not safe at this moment with times. TMF Marduk's hoping to only get one lap through on a set of used tyres, and 11.7 there. I think would probably just about get it done in the McLaren. So I think Ben Daly's going to be quite happy with that result overall. There is M13 Gaming really trying to maximize it through New Holland. Very easy to run wide. It's such a tough corner to get right. And an 11.9, I don't think that's going to be safe there in 7th position. You're going to have to go out again. Only driver yet to set a lap time is Peya at the moment. And there is Safso hoping to improve on that 12.6 on that initial attempt. Going out there, trying to be a bit more aggressive on this lap. And that's only a 12.4, so improves on time. But again, not position, and that's going to be troublesome for the Alpine.
Look at the RB behind, trying to nick the slipstream off of Safso. This is Tom 97 now, on a lap. Now, he isn't a Spanish driver, but he lives in Spain. So this is sort of a second home Grand Prix for the RB drivers. They head now down in towards turn 4. Really throw the car in, keep it nice and tight on the entry. Let the car just drift out wide as you can get on the power earlier, maximize your speed through the corner. Nice and tight there through turn 5, and then back on the throttle. Set yourself up for the difficult left-right chicane. Now, can he keep it close to the apex, unlike Skyzy? And he does. Don't go too close to that yellow sausage curve as it unsettles the car, then you're going to lose a lot of lap times. Keep within track limits as you rise over the crest of the hill, and now down in towards this tough braking zone into the left-hander. Little lock up on the left front, wide of the apex. It's going to lose him a slight amount of time with that correction there as well, losing him a little bit more. But so far, other than that mistake, it has been a tidy lap from Tom 97 and would have gained from the slipstream given to him from Safso. Rounds the final corner. Tom 97, it's a 12-0 at the moment. Is it an improvement? Yes! And it puts him to the top with a 111.4, which I think is going to be safe to get into Q3.
Well, you could feel like it was going to be a little bit more without the small micro issues, and there for Peya, he is once again finding himself with troubles at Bank Sabadell as you try and climb up the hill through the long right. It is such a difficult bit of action that you've got there. Peya can find himself just on the outside looking in there in 11th, and look at Rob going full Tokyo spec there through Lekaixa.
Yeah, a lot of drivers have been struggling with that corner, and it is a difficult one to get into because you get on the throttle and the rear end just never seems to grip. It never seems to find. You always feel like you're spinning up the rears. You have to be so patient with that corner, especially as when you get on the throttle, you're still turning out of the corner as well. You know, the ideal world that you want is you're coming out of a corner and the car is straight. You can get on the traction and you can get the foot down as early as possible, but you don't have that with that specific corner, and that is why we're seeing so many drivers struggle so far in this session. Peya, a compatriot of Unstopped Rob, not on a lap, as you can see from the red light flashing, so driver that is not safe at the moment. Drivers in the drop zone: Peya, Meraki, Infratic, who we're riding on board with at the moment, Rob, and Safso. And I expect these drivers to be finding the time now. It should be on a new set of tyres, pushing at the end of this session, because we saw faster lap times at the end of Q1. And that's why I still think drivers like even Alex Gillen, maybe even Elray Guri, are not quite safe enough.
It's going to be close for those. 11.8, you're kind of relying here on those drivers who are in and around, not finding the 3, 4, 5, 6 tenths of a second that's needed to try and leapfrog over the top. So if you do decide to not go out, it's a gamble. The only driver who's confirmed not going to go out is Tom. He's retired the car on an 11.5, and he will feel that's pretty safe in terms of reality that's there. 3.5 minutes then in qualifying left, and Tiamat Marduk says, on strategy, I think I'm safe, and so too does GB68 believe that he is safe out there at this point. Infratic really over the curb there, over at Elf, through 2, and now at Renault turn 3. You're always trying to look to see what you can do, maximise the circuit. That was hugging on that inside line, maybe indicating that it's quite a high downforce set that's going on here for Infratic, trying to struggle through. Nogueira also believing that safety is there, and a bit more lockups coming through again at Sayat.
Yeah, slightly wide of the apex as well for that corner, but I think he's going to get away with it. I think the main mistake for Fabio so far on this lap has been through turn 4. I think just got on the throttle a little bit too early, drifted out wide earlier than he would have liked, and that would have lost him a slight amount of time. Now in towards this tricky left-hander. Can he keep the rear end settled and he can. That's good traction out of that corner and sets you up nicely for the end of the lap. Still nice and tidy. Avoid the bump through turn 12-13 there. Now in towards the final corner. A little lift off the throttle. Keeps it in 6th gear. Rides it right on the track limits. Comes down to the line. It is an improvement. It's an 11.7, but will it be safe?
Well, we just saw there what that guy Vince thought about it. He thought it was going to be 11.7 or 11.8. He's going to get there. Meraki's just gone 5th fastest. And I tell you what, there's not necessarily the happiest amount of people around their laps. They'll feel like 11.7 is not quite there, and they're going to have to try and scramble and hope that it's going to be enough. Currently focusing on Safso at the moment, really trying to carry as much speed as possible through Verth and up to the Kamsa corner here. Turn 9, really getting a lot of hookup on that inside curve and hoping that this is going to be the lap that will catapult out of the 11 through 15 bracket and inside that top 10. Banks Sabadell comes along once again, half a second to the good at the moment, and 11.9, that's going to be right on the bubble if that is what we're seeing at the moment. We'll see what this final sector does. We're expecting 11.9 over the line. Oh, that's much better, 11.5. Look at that last sector go.
That's a really, really strong lap there from Zafso, and that should put them into safety. I said a 108 is going to be on the bubble. It could even be an 11.7 here that could be the cutoff for this Q2. Is TM Marduk safe as the other McLaren really riding and attacking those yellow sausage curves on the exit of that chicane there? Down in 13th position at the moment. The lap times are going to start to flood in. Meraki into the box, Infratic into the box. They've got to hope and pray that other drivers are not making improvements. Kalon again losing the rear end out of the left-hander, and again through the right. It's also messy from the other McLaren driver. That is a lot of lap time lost, and that is going to be very difficult now to try and get themselves into Q3. Rounds the final corner, crosses the line. It's not good enough. It's still down in 13th position for them as we now watch ME13 Gaming.
Yes, and now at the crucible of this going through, ME13 realising times needed is a 10.5 up at the second sector. Alex Gillen out there on a lap. El Rey out there on a lap at the moment. And these drivers are all looking around thinking, well, what is safe out there? And Fratic is going to be the one who's going to be looking around. The checkered flag out then. Here goes his Scuderia Ferrari teammate up there in 7th position. The jump up then from El Rey gives that a little bit of safety. Tiamat Marduk now 9th, and Fratic on the bubble. Peya unable to move up past. That guy Vince can't find enough. So now Rob in the pits. Alex Gillen, are you in, are you out? That's the next question to ask, and the final question to ask. Heading over to the line, Alex Gillen will get through at the cost of Fratic. My Tiamat Marduk, did you leave that as close as possible? The only other driver who could potentially improve is Kalon, but we expect that Kalon, after dirtying up the tyres, is going to dive into the pits and does. Oh, that could have been very, very scary. So 5 out in Fratic, Peya, Rob, that guy Vince, and Kalon, which means Rob and that guy Vince, who we thought might make it through here, Hayden, are both out.
Yeah, both of them out. Infratic not happy with the lap. As soon as he set it, he was right to be so. Just on the bubble, you know, maybe just made a little bit too many mistakes. Maybe it was that turn 4, just getting on the power slightly too early. And if it cost him 200ths, 300ths of a second, that was the difference there between getting knocked out in Q2 and making it through to Q3.
Yeah, so a massive, massive scramble then at the end of Q2 is always going to be one that is going to put these drivers together. There we get a look then, TK, at what has been a tough qualifying session, but you've got a couple of key important points that you managed to find through that entire thing.
I have indeed. There weren't many incidents. I think all of our drivers managing to avoid that infamous curb on the last couple of corners, but a couple of things I want to go back and review. You mentioned during the stream Safso's creative tyre warming strategies, and watch him with the wheel shake here, just getting the temperature into the front tyres, barely catching the car before he attempts to stop and go again. The other thing, just very quickly, Infratic taking some, let's just say, creative lines here when he was on one of his in-laps. Hopefully the clip will play. There we go. And you can see him running a little bit wide, and he's almost immediately onto the grass, trying to get out of the way of GB just behind him. Once again, back onto the track and through the gravel. We'll keep going. There's a little bit later on in the clip. They're now side by side as they're both returning to the pits. A little bit of a giggle from the native Portuguese as we run down towards this tight left-hander. And you'll see GB run wide himself, emphatic. Again, just playing a little bit of mind games.
Yeah, of course, that will just sully up the circuit a little bit and cause distraction out there. But, of course, if you're not going to use that set of tyres again, you're always going to have that ability to say, you know what, I can do what I like with them. I can run them through the grass, through the gravel. I can run them to Mars and back if I really wanted to. It's that sort of thing that we're looking at. But really now, Hayden, I'm going to bring you back in because we're about to hit Q3. This is awesome, what we've got right now. 12 minutes. And you take all of the restrictions off. It is just simply how in tune are you with the car and how in tune are you with the track.
Look at the names that we have in this Q3 session. Alex Gillen, champion. Zafso, champion. Tiamat Marduk, champion. Meraki, champion. Tom, champion. And then a lot of drivers who are chasing down that first championship and looking so strong. El Rey Guri, Nigera, great in qualifying. Tom 97, one of the strongest drivers out there. You know, we've got some great names. And of course, we've got Emmy 13 Gaming as well, who is somebody that we are yet to see a lot of so far in the Creator Series. And of course, GB68, such a strong driver, still hunting down that first ever race win. Could it come today at the Spanish Grand Prix? Let's wait and see. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, because for now, it is all about that fight between all of these drivers to put themselves on the front row of the grid and take that pole position. And it's going to be really tough to call.
Hayden, I would keep an eye on the sky here because it has got very, very cloudy here for Q3.
Yeah, it certainly has. I assume rain isn't on the way that quickly, because if it was, I'd expect the likes of El Rey Guri, Meraki, Nigera, Safso, and Alex Gillen not to be sitting in the pit lane. But this is going to be the stage of qualifying right now where drivers are who saved those tyres, basically. You know, you've got GB68 on a lap really pushing right now as early as the start of Q3. That suggests to me that he had tyres saved for himself. His team radio there from Alex Gillen that he's making things up here. Let's just try it. And that's just in terms of the setup. So, of course, they have the setup going in, but they're under Parc Ferme. So what you can really change after that is mainly the front wing, a little bit with the diff, and then, of course, tyre pressures. So Alex Gillen just tweaking things, not quite happy with the way that his car handles so far in this qualifying session.
Well, if it doesn't work for him, Carlos Sainz will certainly tell him to stop inventing at this point in time. That much we do know. But with GB68 on this lap, this has looked pretty nice, actually, in terms of how he's been putting his Aston Martin together here, charging about for Bank Sabadell and hoping that the drive's there. He's going to get a little bit of traffic maybe on the final runs through, but I think that's just going to clear for the outlap that's going to be in play, rushing about for the line. What is the benchmark for everyone to get to? 11.4 for GB68. That's not bad.
Not bad, but not great. I believe we've seen a faster lap time in this session, in an earlier session in Q1 or Q2. So it will definitely be up there. But of course, he has that advantage that he will have another brand new set of soft tyres. Of course, if you make it into Q3, everybody here gets given a new set of soft tyres that they can only use for this Q3 session. And a lot of drivers, of course, are going to be waiting on that set until the end of the qualifying session, because of course, track evolution, the track's going to get quicker, the lap time's going to tumble, and the best time's going to come in those final moments of qualifying. ME13 Gaming, the only Ferrari out there today. Of course, no Razin Shai, so ME13 is going to be replacing him and trying to score some good points for the Scuderia. Rounds it the penultimate corner in towards the final one now. And of course, yet to set a lap time. Is this an old set? Is this a new set of tyres? It's an 11.7. It's a very strong lap there, so that must be... If that's on an old set of tyres, that is a very, very good lap there from ME Gaming. But of course, up at the top, no surprises. It's Tom 97.
Tiamat Marduk is only just the 28 seconds off the pace at the moment with his 139.6 in 5th place. But these are the bankers that are there. Ben is purple, we're hearing, in the first sector. Alex Gillen puts an 11.7 down on the board. I reckon that might be a used tyre as well, just making sure there's something there. So obviously there's not going to necessarily be that much worry, because we'd expect 10 cars out there and getting fresh tyres on if they thought that rain was approaching. So it's just hanging here in Montemelo in Catalonia, Spain. But Tiamat Marduk here is hoping that his lap's going to be good enough to challenge Tom 97 in the Visa Cash App Racing Bull. Here comes the charge then through New Holland, and we'll see if Tiamat Marduk can jump up with 7:07 on the clock, third fastest.
You could just see him managing the battery as he was going through the end of that lap there. You could see on the stash of the steering wheel, it changing from being orange to green as he was deploying his battery. So not really relying on the hot lap of the car, instead relying on his own intuition, pushing the overtake to give him the best through this lap. So Tiamat Marduk, a strong lap there with an 11.6, but I'm sure we're going to see a better lap time from him later on in this qualifying. Meraki on a lap, but it has been invalidated, so we'll have to go again later on.
And you are so time sensitive. Oh, what a save as he manages to just pull it all together there through the Bank Sabadell off the exit. And that would have been a little bit scary to put it together. That invalidated lap, of course, will mean no time. And this will be a scramble. Surely if that lap was invalidated, he would try and scramble to get back to the pits. He's effectively given himself 2 minutes away that he can't reset then with.
Yeah, but there's plenty of time left in the session. I don't think that would have compromised him too much. He will now have a banker lap to compare to, and we'll have a delta in the top right-hand corner of your screen. So something to, as I said earlier in the show, keep himself in a more positive mindset when he's constantly green compared to that delta later on in the qualifying session. So that is going to help him out. Elray Guri, our championship leader, slightly out of sync with all the other drivers, is currently on an out lap. We've seen some very, very strong qualifying sessions from him so far this season. Will we get another one at his home Grand Prix as well as he builds it all up?
Well, this has an air of 2012 about it. 5 former champions in this qualifying. They're all trying to catch this driver, Elray Guri. And now running through Bank Sabadell and trying to gear up this lap. We'll have one car in front to try to deal with, but we'll dive into the pit. So this is perfect in terms of setup. Deployment, engage on this front stretch, and you are looking to try and find as much as you can. Very easy to find the limiter on this straight with sometimes how much the high downforce is going to be in play, and he's really having to dice through turns 1 and 2, and then Renault here of turn 3, absolutely beautifully running the car out wide, then heading towards Repsol of turn 4 on the brakes. The car dancing about to his merry tune. He's the Pied Piper right now, and at the moment his car is locomotion. It's on rails.
He's looking very, very strong. Elray means the king in Spanish. Will he be the king for pole position today? Rounds the left, then the right. Slightly unsettled as the car entered, but able to catch it very nicely and would not have lost a lot of time. He's chasing down Tom 97, a guy who wasn't born in Spain, but takes up residency in this country, and he'll be wanting to put it on top for the home fans. In towards the last sector now. Slightly wide of the apex. Will get on the throttle. Needs to avoid the bump on the left. He does so very nicely. Now into the final corner. It's going to be foot to the floor all the way through here. Keeps it in 7th gear. Down to the line. Can he put it on top? No. It's only good enough for a P6 so far in this qualifying session.
Well, that does come along as a surprise. We'd expect Elray to jump up, and look how quickly he is trying to scramble across to get back home and get one more set of tyres on and back out and away again. That's what he's looking at. Nogueira currently the only driver out there at the moment on an out lap, so this is a gamble in terms of what Nogueira is thinking about at this point in the Mercedes. So we'll keep an eye out on what he does, being a little bit out of sync compared to everyone else. But you sit down and you say, well, what have you got? Tom 97 right now, effectively on pseudo-home soil. There is, of course, that urban myth that if you're racing in a sim race on your home track, you get a virtual 0.2 of a second advantage.
I suppose then Canada was also a home track for Tom 97, because it's just very similar to that qualifying session. Again, just has the upper hand on a lot of drivers. GB's got the closest, but it's still 0.2 off. And then Tiamat Marduk is another 0.2 behind that. So these drivers unable to put together what Tom 97 is so far. But this is a driver who has the potential to do that. Nogueira has been so strong in qualifying, not just this season. We've seen glimpses seasons past as well. I say it again. He struggles a little bit in the races, Few little errors come in here and there, but look at this way that he attacks turn 1, rides the curbs fully through the corner, but has the confidence to keep the car under control. So close as they run through turn 3 to keep it the shortest line through that corner. No worry about carrying the speed through the corner, fighting the car left, right and center at the moment, but still able to really gather that lap time and pull it back. This is what Nakera is able to do, and he's doing a brilliant job of it so far.
Up, down, left, right, centre at this moment, like Sabrina Carpenter. He's going to have to switch it like Nintendo at this moment. He needs to try and find a little bit more smoothness because he was struggling through the Repsol corner. Twice he had to try and catch the car, and now this is where he needs to be waking up, this final sector. Absolutely pinning the car through on the apex there through Bank Sabadell, hoping that this lap is going to be enough to give Tom a run for his money up there at the front. Maybe grabbing grass slightly there through the final corner. We'll see what it is. It's a 111.4. It's good enough for the second row at best at this moment in time.
Yeah, only 1,000th of a second away from GB68. So, you know, those few little errors around this circuit might have just cost him the front row of the grid. Here's Meraki now, someone who's been struggling slightly to find the time that he did on F1 23. Can he find it here, though, as he comes across the line? And it is to start a lap, so it's not even to finish a lap. So there's not a lap time set there for Meraki, but let's see what he can do. He's going to be the first runner to get a lap time here in this Q3 session out of all the drivers who are yet to set a competitive lap time. Nogueira, I think, is pretty much done. I think he's given his best. Will be unable to go again. Won't have the battery in the car. But let's see what Meraki can do. And used already about 50% of his battery so far. It's such a long straight here at Catalunya that you have to use so much battery down there. Keeps it nice and tight on the entry and on the apex. A little bit of a lockup, but got away with it. Now through the left and the right. A little bit of a catch there. A correction on the steering wheel. Gonna lose you a few hundredths of a second through that corner. Now rise up the crest. DRS wide open as you head down in towards the tough left-hander. It's all about traction through here. Throw the car in, let the momentum carry the car through the corner, then get back on the throttle when it is safe to do so. Meraki got that perfectly through the final couple of corners. It's a strong lap so far from the Williams driver.
Well, GB68 has already seen the checkered flag, can go no better than second. Here goes Meraki over the line, fourth fastest with that on an 11.5. Safso only can manage 8th place with that. That's not what the doctor ordered. In place of Razin, it's M13 going 5th. Tiamat Marduk can put it on the front row. So now, who is going to make the challenge? Is it Nogueira? Who's going to find that there? Is it going to be El Rey? Tom's not going to be able to improve. And I think that other Tom 97, might have it safe. How heavy over the curbs do you want to go, Nogueira? Trying to find this. Tom improved slightly, 11.222 in the Visa Cash Out RB. But look out, El Rey, the king is in town, and he can only find front row. So that was as close as he could possibly throw it, but it was about 100th short. Nogueira clatters his way through Europe Car, absolutely brute forces his way through New Holland, and hits the line and can't improve. A big qualifying there, and Tom 97 on top of it all.
I'd love to see what the lap time would have been there from Nogueira. I have a suspicion that he invalidated into that penultimate corner, just attacked the curb a little bit too much on the inside. But Tom 97 showing us once again that he has the pace and he is one of the strongest drivers on this grid. And once again, it's just very similar to Canada. Tom 97 sets the way. El Rey Guri gets very, very close. Nogueira, I think that mistake there on that final lap just kept him a little bit too far back and unable to challenge for pole position. But Tiamat Marduk, we spoke about him at the start of the show, somebody who needs a strong result to try and catch up in this championship. To put it in P3 there is going to be a great chance for him in this race.
Alex Gillen down in 6th position. Keep an eye on that. He's got some work to do today here in Spain. That much we do know, and he will be sitting thinking, right, what do I need to do at this moment in time? It's not easy when you qualify on the 3rd row, and notoriously this has been a circuit, Hayden, where being on the front 2 gives you about 80% chance of finding victory overall.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity. Safety cars can be difficult around here. There is a lot of runoff and gravel that you can get collected in, but of course, it's not a barrier that is going to give damage and put debris on the track or leave a driver out of this race. So chance of a safety car is lower than our usual circuits, but Qatar is one of those circuits where it's low, and of course we had them last week, so there is still that chance. But it's going to give those guys a great opportunity, and it's going to really be about the run down to turn 1. We saw it in Canada. Tom 97 got a terrible run into the first corner, was swamped by the other drivers, and El Rey Guri got onto the front. But then, of course, Tom 97 was able to pull it back in that race and take back the race win. I think this could be our championship battle for the season and our story that is going to progress. Tom 97 has the pace, but might not have the consistency to show up to enough races. That's when El Rey Guri can just take that little step away once again, and then Tom 97 reels him back in, and then El Rey Guri moves away again. So this is going to be a really interesting battle between the Spaniard and the guy, of course, who lives in Spain.
Well, you got to remember, Tom 97 comes into today 5th in the championship, 35 points adrift of El Rey Guri here today. So whatever you're looking at in terms of what he's trying to pull today, he has got to make sure that he doesn't only make this move, but he also has a bit of daylight that he can go and play with. So we'll keep an eye on that. We've also got to keep a little bit of an eye on those who maybe are looking to try and make a push. And Nogueira, I think, is the big one here. 9th in the championship. That was a must-make qualifying.
Yeah, as I've said, Nogueira, very, very strong qualifying. And it's been the trait not only this season, but multiple seasons that we've seen so far. You know, this season isn't the first time. F1 24 isn't the first time we've seen him fighting for pole positions or even claiming pole positions. But it's always been the races that let him down. Those small errors, those small lapse of judgment, and maybe it is the long races, the endurance-ness of these 100% races that we do, that those errors just start to creep in.
They certainly do, and of course we do have those 5 lights, and we are underway. 66 laps here in your EA Creator Series, and immediately Tom 97 doing well. Tiamat Marduk with a great start then here in this race, and challenging for the race lead down the inside. He will take that away, and brilliant over Tom. El Rey down to 3rd. Alex Gillen with a stormer. He's in 4th. Hard tyres on for GB68 as he looks to make that progress. Look down the inside. Here comes Nogueira trying to go through. Rainbow on the strategy. Everyone's got a different one in call.
Very aggressive lunge there from Alex Gillen down into the first corner. And it's a slide from the Haas driver. Round he goes, and he's going to drop all his way through the field down into 20th position. Nogueira also falling through the order as well. It must have been contact between those two. I was speaking about him. Over aggressive into the first corner, went 3 wide with the 2 Aston Martin drivers, made contact with GB68, I believe it was, and now finds himself right down at the back of the field.
All the work to do, but 65.5 laps to gather it back up. Alex Gillen with the worst possible start he could have imagined here today. Infratic looking at that guy Vince then for position. Ferrari versus Red Bull here as we end the opening lap then of this race. Tiamat Marduk, no surprises, fastest lap here on the mediums, expected to break away from Tom and El Rey Guri, who are on the hard tyres. DRS then enabled here as they now charge along this front stretch, and almost Indianapolis-style serpentines from some of the drivers trying to break toe.
Yeah, starting stages of this race. Tiamat Marduk, as you said, wants to break that DRS, get away from Tom 97 and El Rey Guri. If those two can fight with each other, that'll be even better for the McLaren driver. It's just on the cusp of 1 second at the moment. El Rey Guri, 3rd position, a little bit of a lock-up there from Tiamat Marduk, heading down into the left-hander, but they have extended that gap as Zafso now moves his way past the Aston Martin GB68 into 4th position. Look at this fight that's going on down here. SkyZ down in 12th position, has Mr. Dale and Meraki behind. Meraki's not had a great start either, dropping down to P14 in this race and finds himself close to his teammate who started right at the back of the field. Here's Tom having a look up the around the outside of Infratic, who was looking like he was hunting down that guy Vince, but now coming under pressure from Tom. But a great drive, great purchase off that corner. It's a tricky traction zone. We spoke about it in qualifying, but Tom nailed it there.
Absolutely magnificent. That you could hang as a work of art in terms of an overtake. Not much more that can be said about that. And this is where you're going to have to be switched on and alert, because every position is going to be fought for hand over fist there. That is Tom moving into 10th position. A little wide in front from that guy. Vince might just open up the opportunity here into 4 for a chance for the move here on in terms of what we've got moving forward. Now Peya finds himself then with a chance then in 8th position. He's done really well off of this start, and look at that guy Vince now looking around him, because that is Tom getting another one done.
Yeah, great start there from Tom. Of course, a little bit lucky with the mistake there from that guy Vince to give him the opportunity to take away P9 from the Red Bull driver, but a great overtake nonetheless. Tom 97 just about managed to close into the DRS of Tiamat Marduk, but now again that gap is 1 second. That's also allowing Tom 97 to drive away from El Rey Guri. He's going to come under pressure from the Alpine driver of Zafso. It's going to be a slight train that builds here. Of course, we know that El Rey Guri is on those hard tyres, so it is going to come under pressure from those drivers. As Zafso all over the back of the Aston Martin right now through the final corner. We spoke about at the start of the show, as long as you're close through that final corner, you get a great opportunity to overtake down into turn 1. El Rey not fighting that at all, knows he has a championship to fight for, knows it's a long season, doesn't need to risk it so far on lap 4 of this race.
Comfortable move there by Zafso, moving up into 3rd and making hay while the sun shines early here in Spain. Let's go back then over towards the race start and what was an incredible bit of action early on. Alex Gillen falling way back in the field, now finds himself down in 19th position overall. You have to say right now that that is as dramatic as it gets, Hayden.
Yeah, certainly so. Alex Gillen, terrible start from him. Contact down into turn 1, and then contact, of course, down into turn 4. Let's take a look at a replay. This is side-by-side. Live action on the left, Tiamat Marduk on the right. Great start from Ben, of course, on those medium tyres to get past El Rey Guri. And then Tom 97 in his sights, has the inside line. Tom 97 deciding not to fight it, knows that Tiamat Marduk has the advantage, has the better tyres, and is able to hold that and stay in front of Tom 97. As just on the live action, we've got a kick going wheel to wheel with a Ferrari on the left. It is MSkyZ overtaken Infratic, who gets very close round the final corner. They should both have DRS here. MSkyZ flashing. Will Fabio come back down into the first corner? He will. MSkyZ, of course, on the soft tyres, utilising those to his best ability, potentially forced wide there by the Ferrari driver, able to keep hold of it, still wheel to wheel between these two drivers through turn 3. Infratic will have the upper hand. He will have the inside through turn 4 now, and surely he will retain this position, but that battling has lost him a slight amount of time to that guy Vince.
Absolutely, it's like trying to extricate yourself from a rose bush. It is going to hurt out there at this point. Tiamat Marduk leads, and the DRS is keeping Tom in check at this moment in time. Meraki also, I believe, had a pretty decent race start here to this one, so I'm sure we'll get a chance to look at that one then in terms of how that start all came about. But this moment in time, Meraki doing pretty much what he needs to then. We'll take a look at what he had to deal with off of his start right now, charging on forward. Okay, decent off of the get-go, Hayden, but you look around, it is a bottleneck when you get to 1 and 2.
Yeah, I think there was a mistake here, or he was caught up with the collision because he's quite far up. And then, of course, there's the contact. Alex Gillen with GB68. Everybody gets through okay, though. I don't think there was any damage, but there was definitely contact, I believe, between Nogueira, Meraki, and Alex Gillen, because all 3 of those drivers dropped down the field. So let's try and get a replay of that, as there's a Mercedes on the live action, diving it past a Red Bull car, getting it completely wrong and messing that up. And I'm sure we'll get to TK on the clip book in a moment to really run us through what happened down at the start.
Yeah, I think we will in just a moment's time there. So that was Nogueira who had definitely ran on back, and that was troubled in the early goings there as he was trying to scramble his way through. He's been one of the big losers in the early stages of this race. Rob's made some great progress. He's up to 7th, but we'll go over to TK right now, who's got this brilliant analysis of what happened here with Alex Gillen.
It was a rather unfortunate instant that Alex Gillen was caught up in. It was El Guri that just pushed him ever so slightly wide when they were coming down to this left-hander. You can see the Aston Martin push him onto the grass, and unfortunately he doesn't go round and picks up that wing damage as well. I've got another point of view if you stick with us for just another brief moment. We can go on board with Meraki for this instant. You can see GB and Oiguera just in front of him, but keep your eyes on the Haas car. There's just a couple of cars ahead. You'll watch him be pushed wide here on the right-hand side. Round he goes, and Oiguera can go absolutely nowhere, and neither can Meraki.
You have to say there, though, TK, in terms of that moment. In fact, actually, I'll go to Hayden on this. Hayden, at what point does Alex Gillen give himself the right to have that space? Elray is more than happy to command and dictate because there's not at least half a car length alongside.
I think it's knowing the drivers that you come up against. I think Elray Guri is one of those drivers that you just know if you're on the outside, he's not going to leave you the room. And you have to be alongside him. You have to be wheel to wheel, or even have a nose ahead for Elray to be like, okay, I will give you the space. He's following the racing line. He's going to where the corner, you start braking for that corner anyway. Alex Gillen isn't fully alongside him. The red arrow probably would have just started to creeping in, and unfortunately, there is Punju is out of this race. He's in the wall. He's in the wall. Safety car, and that was the exit of the left-right chicane there. Punju's car was spotted in the background, and Scott, I think, is a little bit too far back that the car is possibly going to disappear by the time that we get to it. But yeah, for Alex Gillen, just off the circuit, loses the traction, of course, being there. As a driver, you're always going to go for that gap until it's too late. And it's hindsight, he would have said, do you know what? I should have backed out for it. It's a long race. There's no need for me to go for it. Punju's car was there on the left-hand side. It's disappeared now. And then for Nogueira and Meraki, just a case of wrong place, wrong time. Nogueira gets caught up first, and it's a Constantino effect. Jake gets caught up after that, and luckily for everybody else, they were able to sort themselves out and not get into too many incidents. TK is going to go off and get a clip there for what happened to Punju, and I'm sure under the safety car we'll come back to him, and we can now take a chance to breathe and relax a little bit and really dissect into what has happened so far in this race.
Half a dozen cars from about the middle of the field have just dived into the pits and changed their strategy. Tom 97, just as we were trying to get through all of that, had actually just made the move back through on Tiamat Marduk right before the safety car. Most drivers coming back out then on a set of hards or a set of mediums. It's at 7 laps, so it's pretty interesting, Hayden, in terms of how you set it up and get together, whether you feel like, okay, we've done 7 laps, I still feel like I'm on the same strategy, or I've done 7 laps and really it's not going to affect my strategy, so I should just stay out.
Yeah, I'm really surprised that MSkyZ didn't opt to come into the pit lane. He's on soft tyres, so this would have been a great opportunity to get off of those soft tyres, get onto a set of mediums, a set of hards. This is the perfect timing for MSkyZ for those soft tyres to get off them and get onto a new set of tyres. I'm really, really surprised that he has not made a pit stop in this race at this stage, because it's a free one. So very surprising for him, especially as the likes of Tom and Perya decided to do that anyway. And I believe TK is ready to show us what happened to Punju.
Yeah, I am indeed. I apologise in advance for the quality of the clip. Twitch decided to save it in 480p, so we're just going to have to roll with it for the time being. But you can see on board, he's chasing down the Ferrari of Infratic just ahead of him through the left-hander, down towards the second sector we go. And note his electrical deploy on the right-hand side of your screen. It's on medium, and as he goes through the corner, trying to adjust his brake ballast, he flicks it into overtake and finds himself in the wall. That is so unfortunate for Punju there, and that is his race ended.
It is so simple as that. That might be, that transfer of Verth Corner, Hayden, one of the toughest points on this circuit, and underratedly so, because you've got that left and then you've got to make that small correction right to drive up the hill. You often get that massive switch of rotation where if the rear tyres want to continue turning over to the left, they'll just keep going.
Yeah, if you haven't got the weight transfer sorted as you go into the entry of that corner, the rear end will not grip up and it will slide away from you. Now, it's easy to correct it through there because there's so much grip that we have in these cars on F1 24. But, when you're putting overtake on at the same time, it's just a recipe for disaster. It's one of those corners that you don't really want to be doing too much through. Okay, other corners you can do that. Turn 3, of course, it's flat. You can sort out your brake bias. You can, switch between engine modes and ERS modes, all that. That's fine. But that corner right there, where you have to be so fully focused and prepared as well to potentially catch the car, if it just slightly feels unsettled, you do not want to be messing around with your brake bias there, as you've spotted something in the background.
Yeah, we had someone way off the road trying to warm those tyres up, was in the grass and then some. Safety car, though, will be in this lap. It was about 11th, 12th position. I think maybe it was Tom who was the car off the road, but in the hands of the other Tom right now, in the Visa Cash App Racing Bull. He can go at any point he likes once that safety car has dived in, and is probably going to try and wait for that final corner to try and get that launch, and now trying to get through. Oh, huge wheel spin, trying to get that going through the quick short shift into 4th gear, and if Tiamat Marduk woke up to it, he might have a chance here down the front stretch to get that move sorted. 3.5 tenths of a second, no DRS of course until lap 2, so he's just about got away with that, has Tom 97, but that could have been disastrous on the restart.
Yeah, Tom regains or keeps the lead of this race as the other Tom goes for an overtake on Matty D. Of course, on brand new tyres, everybody from Matty D up did not pit, and Tom has swallowed up the first of those drivers. Perya trying to have a look on Nogueira here, unable to do so. Nogueira, of course, on medium tyres, also on new tyres as well. Meraki, another driver who didn't opt to come into the pit lane. He's on old hards, but 6-lap hold, went for a box, of course, after that mistake. Same with Alex Gillen, as these guys are all trying to sort themselves at the moment. Mr. Dale having a slight look around the outside, unable to do so. There's a battle going on up ahead. Nogueira now overtaking Matty D into the tricky left-right chicane that we were talking about earlier. That is a fantastic move there from the Mercedes driver. But up at the front, Tom 97 still leads over Tiamat Marduk. And we must have missed the overtake because, of course, when we cut to TK, I believe Tiamat Marduk was leading this race. So Tom 97 must have gone back whilst we were looking at replays there.
I believe it would have been front stretch where that would have happened, and now look at Tiamat Marduk use his medium tyres at this point. DRS enabled then and charge along this front stretch. They won't have it at the moment, the activation line was there, but watch out, here goes Ben Daly to the inside. Tiamat Marduk will move back forward into the race lead here on lap 11. That's not the surprise that we were expecting because of the fact he's on the medium tyres, but now Safsho has got the chance to really try and hammer home an overtake, and he would desperately want that. And look at them as they fly through Repsol, all of them staying in range.
Safsho's got a great chance to get a really strong result this race in Spain. Season 1 champion, of course, in the Creator Series, but since then has never really reached the heights of that first season. Could a brand new game here on F1 24 change all of that? Was strong in Monaco, disappointment in Canada, but now seems to have some good pace here in Spain. Team radio from Tom 97. Tyres are way too cold at the moment. I can't push. And it is so difficult on this new game to get tyre temperature that if you're starting on a harder compounder tyre, it's going to be so difficult. And if you're on an older compounder tyre, it's going to be difficult as well. As we're watching Nogueira go right around the outside of Kalon. What an overtake we're seeing again from Nogueira in this race. He's really putting on a show. But going back to the tyre temperatures, yeah, if you're on those hards, it's going to be so difficult on that safety car restart to get tyre temperature in ahead of the restart. And then you're just a bit of a sitting duck through the corners, and that's showing so far.
Nogueira's a firecracker, and watch out because the other Tom is going to find his way through on top. Kalon is looking around thinking, what's just hit me? 3 corners, 2 overtakes on him. He won't be too pleased about that as he drops back now into 13th place. Unlucky for some. Little bit of a search there, trying to get through. You've got to keep an eye out then on the likes of Matty 13 trying to make some moves, but at the moment there is Matty 13 and he's trying to line up Perya for position at every place right now. If you're down the order, you're trying to do the one thing that Punju hasn't in this race here right now, Hayden: buy a ticket to the end.
Yeah, I think for Matty D so far in this race, it's just a case of that. It's just surviving till the end of this race. He hasn't boxed. He's starting to be swallowed up by those drivers who are on brand new tyres. You've got to take the hit. You've got to just allow them through. Don't bother fighting too hard with them. Stay with the train. You stay in the DRS, gives you a great opportunity come the end of the race. Somebody that has surprised me so far in this race, M-Sky Z, I was expecting him to drop down a little bit too, quite a bit in this race, being on those soft tyres, opting not to go into the pits as Mr. Dale is our first driver to pick up a penalty. 3 second time penalty, multiple warnings. I think if you're a regular viewer of the Creator Series, it's not too much of a surprise. Mr. Dale, the most DNF'er so far in the Creator Series, has that record, and also does tend to pick up quite a lot of penalties, was the main reason for the retirement in Qatar, and it is something that he does need to work on. He worked on it so much and so well when he did his season in F2, was a very consistent driver there. Needs to just find what he was able to do in F2, bring that back now to F1 and stay consistent, because we've seen it before. Perya, no penalties in Monaco, a red flag brought him straight back in it. He was way out of the points, and then all of a sudden he finished in P8. So as long as you keep it clean, no penalties, you have a great chance for scoring good points.
Yes, and that is key. Of course, sometimes you can be a little bit liberal with it. Tom feeling like he's got to remember he's got much newer tyres, and they will get there in terms of their operating window and unlocking as much grip as there is available. So there is definitely chances out there, and this is where Tom 97 feels like he's got the car back into the window that he believes that he can want. Look at the overspeed on the straight. Tiamat Marduk, see you later, and watch out in the back there with M-Sky Z soft right now with Emphatic and Rob all there together. Make some room. There's hardly any there. Almost front to rear tyre contact between M-Sky Z and Emphatic. And now Rob with a big look here in 10th position, heading to Repsol corner. Whoa, Danny inside. Nogueira's flying.
Nogueira really is flying in this race on those new tyres and really putting on a show to try and get himself back up to the front after that unfortunate contact with Alex Gillen's spinning car. Nogueira now into P10. Emphatic and Skyzy again, wheel to wheel between these two. Putting on a great show so far today. Rob looking to get involved, Nogueira looking to get involved. Let's see that exit out of that corner onto the DRS straight. Here comes Nogueira now, up the inside into the left-hander. Brakes later than Emphatic. He's not going to fight it too much. Knows his fight isn't with Nogueira at this stage of the race. Lets him through and is going to wait for that opportunity once Nogueira gets past M-Sky Z to see, okay, the door's open, I'm going to follow you through.
I tell you what, if this is as shock-and-awe as it gets, there's a Portuguese man-o-war who's trying to get away through every single stage of this field, and that is Nogueira. M-Sky Z next on the list. Tiamat Marduk back to the race lead. But here is Nogueira down the inside, and now make that P8, and he'll be lining up that guy Vince next. And that guy is going to be looking in his mirrors and going, no, I don't want to be that guy. I want to look behind, not have to deal with Nogueira, who is making every pass look like butter.
Yeah, but that guy needs to get onto the back of ME13 Gaming, because he's just outside the DRS zone to give him a chance to hold on to position there. It's a little bit further up the field. Zafso tucked up right behind his teammate Marduk retakes the lead of this race. Tom 97, second position at the moment, but Zafso in that fight as well, as are the two Aston Martins who have been so strong so far this season. GB68 yet to win a race in the Creator Series. Will that happen today? He's in a good position to try and fight for it, but let's see how this race unfolds. A lot of laps still left to go. As Tom now, the next driver, just like Nogueira, has a fresher set of tyres compared to a lot of these, but he's on the hards compared to Nogueira being on the medium, so unable to get through, unable to have that pace as they go wheel to wheel for a very tricky section of corners. Emphatic on the inside gives up on that position, but I think we'll have DRS where Tom will not, so Emphatic might be able to come back at Tom here.
That's going to be key, and they will switch again at the front of the field. Alex Gillen with the fastest lap. There is the move from Emphatic to get through. And you know what? Rob will follow in tow and say, you know what? If you've got no DRS, I'm going to pick that up as well. So there's another position that gets jumped up and gained again as this continues down in the later stages right now. Tom 97, your leader. Tiamat Marduk second. Then it's Safso, El Rey, GB68. And this is where it's going to get quite interesting there with the two Aston Martins together, because of course they will have to alternate on when they come in. They can't afford to double stack being right next to each other. Little wiggle through Verth corner goes for El Rey Geary.
Yeah, both drivers on the hard tyres as well, so they will come into the pits around a similar point. So need to watch out for that. So El Rey Geary gets very close there to the back of Zafso, running in towards that left-hander. Still, again, very close on entry, but Zafso seems to have the exits locked down and have that upper hand there compared to the Aston Martin driver. Now through the final corner, will we see another change of position? Tiamat Marduk will have the DRS over Tom 97, will gain and gain and gain all the way down into turn one. Here comes El Rey Geary as well, trying to have a look, but not close enough, as Tiamat Marduk retakes the lead of the Spanish Grand Prix.
They are going to chop and change, and they'll do it all race long. And oh, Rob, oh, door left open. Here comes another look from Emphatic, try and get it done. Around the outside of Renault is so difficult to manage that pass, but this is some brilliant stuff. Up and down, no matter where you look, they are throwing what they can at it. And there's Nogueira around the outside of Seat trying to find the pass. He'll have to scramble for a bit of traction, and he gets it too. Oh, Nogueira's on a charge. He's now 7th.
Nogueira absolutely flying in this race. We'll now be hunting down the Ferrari driver of ME13 Gaming, but we're watching Tom. He's going to go on the attack of the other Ferrari of Infratic. Now, we saw him get past earlier on, but wasn't intelligent in his overtake. He did it too early. He did it before the DRS detection point, and then gave up 2 positions, being a little bit too greedy, a little bit too early. There's contact there between Infratic and Tom. No damage caused for either driver, but has Tom done it enough? He's done it, and he will have DRS on the car in front, so I think he's going to hold position over Infratic as we're watching Tom 97 and these two. This is just the story so far of this race. These two just chopping and changing positions, working together to get the job done, as Bob the Builder once said.
Well, you have to say at this point, everyone's looking, and that's troubles for M13. Running wide at the opening corner, and suddenly it's that guy Vince who might want to take this one. Back of the train you go, looking down the inside, will fight around the outside, but has to yield here for fear of running off the circuit. If he's got a little bit of overlap here, might have a chance down at Seat, and look at that mistake from that guy Vince. Didn't have confidence to turn in. Little bit of argy-bargy, but it does get the job done. So that is wonderfully considered there by those two. M13 down to 8. Must note, M-Sky-Z has come in and made his first pit stop, come off the soft.
Yep, M-Sky-Z finally off the soft tyres. I don't know whether he just threw away that opportunity of pitting under the safety car. We'll have to see how this race unfolds. But Nogueira is somebody now you've got to say is in the hunt for this race win. He'll have better tyres than the drivers in front of him. Is now in this train. Look at the battery as well. Has about 80% battery charge, 80-70% so far. You can see the front, the light flashing on the Aston Martins. Now they could just be harvesting battery being in this train right now. But Nogueira is going to be wanting to try and get past. Unable to do so there as the Aston Martin just drives away. Alex Gillen now sets the fast lap of the race. Still on his recovery drive, trying to come back, but still down in P13 in this race. But Nogueira is a driver that I think can certainly get in the mix, and look at him going for it now on GB. It through turn 3, the door is open. If he can brake late enough into turn 4, he needs to get on the traction early enough to get the advantage on GB68. We will now have the inside line going into turn 5, goes the long way right around the outside. Nogueira has been putting on the moves today, and he is showing no signs of stopping, moving up into P5.
That was unlocked, realising he wasn't going to get the pass at 1, and realising the mistake of El Rey Geary through turn 1, he just opened up and said, right, I'll pick it up off the exit of Renault turn 3, and I will use that to open up that advantage. Inside of 4, outside of 5, and at Seat, he has found his money corner, and now up to 5th, and he's got the championship leader and an Iberian, I would say, compatriot there alongside. So that's going to be the focus. In comes Safso into the pits. That guy Vince can't see anything through his tyre, so that's not going to be ideal for him. But first taker of the day, it's Safso in the pits on lap 20.
Yeah, you get a lot of tyre smoke thrown up. You can see it right there, and it just kind of lingers on the track, and it's so difficult. It's actually what caught out Safso at the start of this season in Monaco. Went through the smoke into the Nouvelle chicane, couldn't see the barrier, clipped it, broke his tyre, race over. And it is so difficult to see through that, especially if there's a car stopped or something further up on the road. So something that guy Vince needs to look out for. If there's a safety car, get into the menu, change the graphic settings to get rid of that tyre smoke, to give him that chance to not be blinded in this race. Watching on board now with someone who's flying the flag for us commentators. F1 Scott is in P15, has had a very decent first season in the F1 Grid Series so far. As a bit of tyre smoke there up ahead. There's a yellow flag, and it is, yeah, Mr. Dale. Good spot there. I was wondering what you were going on about there, as he looked like he was crabbing out of the corner. And Mr. Dale, again, just making those errors that we unfortunately do see time and time again from the Red Bull driver. Is down into 17th, but is going to need a safety car to try and get himself back in this race.
or that, or look up at the sky. It has got dark and gloomy, and he might need the heavens to open to try and give him any hope of coming back through in this race. Mr. Dale, not ideal, coming again out of first corner and catching it incorrectly. Tom 97 at the fastest lap of the race, but look at the work Nogueira's done. He's now up to third in all of this, and you watch out, there's Scott, and he's got the move with Peya, but look at Peya, he's like a hawk right now, trying to open up any chance he's got, covered in the middle of the road by Scott and defended again.
Scores points all the way down to P15, so this is a fight for points at the moment in this race. Meraki, the last point scorer at this Spanish Grand Prix. Alex Glynn now up into 12th position, hunting down the McLaren of Kalon and trying to see what he can do to move himself up through the field. Rain is on the way. There will be rain at the end of this race coming from TK, who is our eyes in the skies and looking over at all the other drivers' POVs. Let's have a look at a replay of what happened to Mr. Dale going down in towards what is, again, a very difficult chicane. We saw what happened to Punju early on. It was the same thing, call him out. Just got on that yellow curb. I said about it in qualifying, you don't want to get any tyres over that yellow curb because it will just unsettle the car. And that is exactly what has happened, unfortunately, there for Mr. Dale. Went into the barrier, not too sure if he has got any damage. I believe he might have wing damage on the front right there for Mr. Dale, sadly.
I looked like he just caught the first curb, and then that threw him over the second curb, and by that point, he was wrestling the car, and it wasn't there. He would lose out in that scenario. So not ideal for him, but now has to try and recover a way through. Alex Gillen now up to 11th position as we focus now through the Repsol corner. This is Alex Gillen we're going to be focusing on for the little bit, because this is damage limitation. You do not judge a driver fighting for a championship, Hayden, based on how many wins they've got. You judge them on how they respond against adversity, and Alex Gillen is slowly pulling everything together.
Yeah, he's going to need to get himself into, realistically, I reckon there's a good chance to get himself into maybe the top 6 here, and then try and see if he can close into that front battle. Of course, he will have better tyres than some of the drivers ahead of him. But if Elway Guri, up in P4, it's going to need to be, backing him up, try and be close to him as possible to try and, really fight for this championship and not allow your rival to run away and into the distance. Nogueira, though, on the back of these guys, could Nogueira finally fight for his first race win in the Creator Series? He's had pole positions. He's been at the front time and time again. Those mistakes have cost him. He's got the mistake out of the way with that collision with Alex Gillen. Now it's a push for this race win. He's certainly in it right behind Team at Marduk at this stage of this race as Peya gets past F1 Scott down into turn 1 around the outside. That's a smooth and beautiful overtake there from the RB driver.
Yeah, that's wonderfully constructed then, and another move then found and secured here on lap 23 of 66, focusing with M13. Watch out, Alex Gillen round the outside of Emphatic. Looking to be emphatic in terms of his overtake, and he does so. Moves inside the top 10 with that one. Rob and Tom are the next two to keep in focus, but you're looking at Nogueira's race here, Hayden. I do have to talk about this. After what he got caught up with on lap 1 with Alex Gillen, suddenly Clark Kent, Superman, and, he's him.
Yeah, he really is. He's absolutely showing his pace at the moment. 2 pole positions in the Creator Series, no race wins. I don't even know if he's even set foot on the podium before. No podiums ever for Nogueira. This is a great opportunity for him today to fight for a race win, as that guy Vince gets a 10-second time penalty for speeding into the pit lane. He was in a fight with Emre Gaming. Tom, Rob was in that train. And unfortunately, that 10 seconds is going to really cost him. We'll be hoping for a safety car to give him the opportunity to get rid of that penalty and really push. They will have to box again because the rain is on the way as Nogueira fights with TMF Marduk and moves into 2nd place of this Spanish Grand Prix, and now is hunting down the race win.
Oh, he is just poetry in motion, the way that he is running. This is beautiful from Nogueira right now. Tom 97, Ferrari off, and that'll be emphatic, hard into the wall, and a safety car is deployed again.
It's going to be a great opportunity. I don't know what the weather's going to be doing, but it could be a good opportunity if the weather is on its way to potentially look at some intermediate tyres. But for those other drivers, they can now come into the pit stop and make a free stop it's going to be really unfortunate for those drivers like Zafso, like that guy Vince, and the McLaren of Kalon, who very recently came into the pit lane. But Tom's in the box. Nogueira, this works out amazingly for him because he's been pushing those medium tyres so hard to catch up to that front runners that now he gets a free pit stop, can go on to a brand new set of tyres, push till the rain comes, and is certainly in a fight for this race win. Tom 97 goes on to mediums. Nogueira goes on to hards. Tiamat Marduk onto mediums. Elray onto mediums. This is where, unfortunately, I feel like Nogueira might find things a little bit more difficult, though, because he's on those hard tyres. We heard from Tom 97 earlier on this race. It was so difficult to get the tyres up to temperature. Team radio from Meraki, I'm not this slow. It doesn't make sense. And that is just something, again, that I've spoken about on the show today, that Meraki's pace has not been there this season. He's been able to stay behind battles that have been happening in front of him, but has never been able to get involved in those battles. Those guys, when they're fighting each other, just allows Meraki to stay with them. He's never been able to really push for those front fights, and that certainly is showing so far this season. But I believe TK has got some insight for us for this race so far.
I have indeed. We can jump back just a brief couple of moments ago, watch on board what happened with Infratic. A very similar incident to what we saw with Mr. Dale and, of course, Bunju earlier on. It's the exact same chicane through the middle of Sector 2 towards the top of the hill. It's over the curb, just unsettles the car, and he's very, very fortunate not to end up with a retirement here in the Spanish Grand Prix. He hit the wall head on. The front wing completely disintegrates, but the car somehow is still running.
I'll tell you what, there's a reason why they do crash tests for machinery like this. He's just about held the front together, but needed a new front wing, has dropped down to 16th position, but his race will still continue. Now, Nogueira going on to a hard. Now, this is, I would say, an interesting situation. So this is where you look at the race, and in terms of the rules, you do need to make a tyre change from one type of tyre to a different type of tyre, Hayden. But if you believe it's going to rain at some point in this race, someone like Tiamat Marduk comes into the pits from the medium tyres and goes on to a second set of medium tyres. He believes it might rain.
Yeah, I don't know what tyres Nogueira started the race on. He might have started on a set of mediums and might not have had a new set of mediums available to him, but he would have pitted very early on this race. Those tyres would have been maximum 5-6 laps worn, so still probably would have been a better option than maybe those hard tyres, especially on the safety car restart. I think he's going to find it very, very difficult. Zafso, though, didn't lose out as much as I expected him to. He's still sitting in P5. Yesuke was a little bit further up the field, was maybe one place past Elray Guri and just behind him at Marduk. But being on that undercut and being able to utilise those newer tyres compared to the older tyres of the guys at the front, was able still to be in a position to fight. And Yesuke's tyres are on 5 laps compared to those drivers who are on, no laps so far in this race. As at the back, Mr. Dale trying to find his way through. I believe he is a lap down. Yes, he is. So these drivers just trying to move off the racetrack. And this is something that we have of race etiquette in the Creator Series, that if there is a driver who is a lap down, because unfortunately it isn't a system that is implemented into the game yet, that the drivers move off the racetrack and allow that lap car through. So Mr. Dale right now trying to work his way through the field and get back onto that lead lap.
I'll tell you what, it is such a tough little pivot for him to go through. Well, the safety car's going to be in this lap, so he's only going to get that far, and he's going to be stuck a lap down here, and so he's got to absolutely crawl right to the back of the group. Otherwise, he's going to get a penalty out there, which will just compound things further. So he will stay well out of the way, go back to the back of the field and get things together. So Tom 97 then on the second safety car of the race will be looking to get things back going for lap 27 here of 66, which will leave us 40 laps to go here at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. It's him, Nogueira, Tiamat Marduk, Elray Giri, the championship leader, in 4th. We are back to running here, and look at Elray Giri back in 3rd. You have got to try and see this, because look at how he has just picked the pocket of Tiamat Marduk.
Yeah, great restart from Elray Guri, and also a great restart from Nogueira up until turn 1. But of course, the tyre temperature just isn't there for the Mercedes driver, and he's going to be losing positions now. Not only to Elray Guri, Tiamat Marduk's going to want to sniff down in towards turn 4, unable to do so as Zafso was on his outside. But Nogueira was right up tucked behind Tom 97, but Tom weaving so much down that start-finish straight, not only to try and break the toe, but to try and get tyre temperature into those medium tyres, giving the best chance through the first corner. Nogueira, of course, on the hards, though, is going to be really compromised for these first couple of laps. Needs to hold position, needs to also stay with the train. If he compromises himself, it's going to be very difficult. Look at the Ferrari getting right out there. I don't know if that was just a case of losing the rear end and finding himself over on the right-hand side, but really shot over to the inside of that corner.
Yeah, certainly did, coming out there of camps, turn number 9, and as such, Tom having an easy job of making the move and getting the overtake sorted, flying through Europe car. We see the middle of the pack go. Here's Scott looking for the top 10. DRS enabled. El Rey, fastest lap, 1:15.0, and we'll be very, very happy with that being put together on the board. Now these drivers having to look, a little bit of sunshine coming through, so they're not going to be worrying too much about that now in terms of the weather for the moment. But of course that weather forecast subject to change at the moment from where they sit. Looking here with Alex Gillen, who's really making good recovery. Are we going to go 3 wide into Repsol? Hello, straight down the inside. That is Rob being the ultimate opportunist there in terms of that move. You could say he's got his edge.
Yeah, he saw Alex did a turn 1, lap 1 and thought, you know what, that's a good idea. I'm going to do more of the same. And you know what? It's actually worked out for him. He's got himself up in a P8, P9. Someone who's not going to be happy with that move. ME13 Gaming was on the outside, compromised, ran onto the dirty stuff, onto the grass, and has dropped all the way down to P13. So very unfortunate to lose out, and lose out another position now to Matty D13, who gets himself up into 13th position.
Yep, so just like that, ME13 Gaming loses the battle of the 13s because Matty D13 will have P13 at this point in time. On board, GB68 did really well in the pit stop to leave enough time to not double stack with El Rey Geary despite being on the back. Tiamat Marduk back through on the Guerra. His tyres fighting to get up to temperature. Pick a pocket wide, don't you? Artful Dodger stuff. Then from GB68, looking for the inside. Trying to get this one sorted, then through Renault, and he will unlock that pass, but don't give this one up just yet, because on the outside, trying to find the angle for 5 is going to be the chance then for Safso, who has to yield.
Beautiful racecraft from both GB68 and Zafso. 2 very respectful drivers. You know if you're going wheel to wheel with those two, that 9 times out of 10, you're being left the room, and it's always going to be a great battle, and we certainly saw that right then. Great overtake there from GB68, past Zafso, and moves himself into 5th place. Now his teammate, and look at that, just like clockwork, Tom easily passed on Zafso. I think Zafso just let him through there, dropped it into none, and was like, there you go, my friend. You now go and attack GB68 and get yourself involved for the team. It's not been a good start to the season for Alpine. They've got 2 very strong drivers, 2 former champions, and that needs to start showing over the course of the rest of this season.
Yeah, it does, and they need to find a little bit of something to energize and light the blue touch paper, and I think we're just about to get that. Here goes Scott. He's looking at Alex Gillen, hoping that he's got something to unlock, and that's not going to be quite there at the moment. There's not too many worse places than being on the back of Alex Gillen in terms of in these races. Rob now will be looking behind at the driver coming into today, second in the championship, desperate to try and find a way through. But you look at this field right now, from 3rd all the way back to 14th position, they are nose to tail.
They really are, and that's just what this safety car has allowed us to have once again, to have all these drivers so close. And just look at the names of some of the drivers that are down there. Fratic, that guy Vince, Kalon, right down at the back of the field. These drivers that we know have really strong pace. So good opportunities for some great battles and some great points scored for these drivers today. Up at the front though, El Rey Guri still keeping within that 1 second gap of Tom 97, but Tom 97 starting to flex his muscles just slightly, just breaking that gap little by little. But unfortunately, the DRS for El Rey is just going to allow him to drag himself back in. As you can see, the times tumbling. 7 tenths, 6 tenths, 5 tenths. We'll get down to 4 tenths. He'll close right up, but unable to overtake and take that position. Tom 97, vital for the championship for himself, needs to make sure that he stays ahead of El Rey Guri.
Can't get much closer there. If you're Meraki, had been struggling earlier on, saying, I'm not this bad, I can't continue to lose, and I think he needs an element of aggression there. That's Payer in front. in the Visa Cash App Racing Bull, trying to find that way through. So that's going to be questions asked out there. Tom, over the radio. Thank you, Saf. What a W teammate there. And you would get that understanding there in terms of what you need in terms of a team. You need the best possible chance to win. If you're losing places hand over fist, absolutely don't fight your teammate.
Yeah, I think it was a great decision there from Zaf. So his tyres are slightly older than Tom because, of course, he boxed before the safety car came out. So Tom's now got that better opportunity to score good points for the team. But I think they're both in a very comfortable position. I don't think Rob's got the capabilities to really challenge those guys too much. But Zafso does need to stay within the DRS train of Tom. If he doesn't, then, of course, it's going to be easy pickings for Rob. A lot of these drivers worried about overheating their engines. You'll probably see it down the start-finish straight. The drivers will move out of the slipstream, and that's not necessarily to overtake. For somebody who is going to overtake, GB68 on Nagera, down into turn 1. That was easy.
Oh, get the Staples button out. That was how easy it was. Comfortable on the pass, but GB68 will realise that he is taking the, I would say, the difficult stint at the moment is Nagera having to run the hard tyres, but this will get him effectively to the end of this race, you would feel, if it were to stay as it is. So that's maybe what Nagera is thinking about. If I can stay in range of these drivers in front and they burn up those medium tyres, he might have the ability here, just because of the tyre life, the longevity of the hard tyre, to give himself an opportunity to attack back. Now, El Rey here and Tom97, they've pulled 2 seconds over Tiamat Marduk, which is crucial because right now, El Rey Guri doesn't need to make this move to win this race. All he's got to do is make sure he's ahead on lap 66.
Yep, and he spoke about it at the start of the season. He's not about making those aggressive overtakes. It's about clearing up his name this season, but also being smarter, being more intelligent, working closely with his brother, who is his race engineer. Now, I think he'll have a great opportunity to go for an overtake, but he might hold back a little bit here because he won't want to go wheel-to-wheel with Tom97, and he decides not to. Doesn't decide to use his battery to go for the overtake because he thinks that his best opportunity right now is, okay, Tom97, he's one of the fastest drivers in the field right now. He is the fastest driver in Creator Series. So why don't I just stay behind him, use him to pull me away from the rest of the field, and I've got a great chance, even if I don't win the race, to finish in 2nd position, and I gain on my closest rival, which is Alex Killen. Here's some team radio from Infratic. We're losing so much time each lap with no DRS, and it's just so that's the point that I'm making. Team at Marduk is going to lose time lap after lap after lap, not being close to El Rey Guri and Tom97 because he's out of that DRS window. And that is the case for anybody if you lose the train. You just lose so much time, and it's so difficult to get back in if you don't have a tyre advantage.
Well, you're looking around at it, and these are machineries which are 950 kilograms and producing 900 brake horsepower from the engine. You open up that rear wing flap, Hayden, that's the equivalent of an extra 80 rampaging stallions that are there to give you an extra oomph.
Yeah, they certainly are, and it's going to be full effect down this start-finish straight. Here's GB68 on the back of Tiamat Marduk. Are these two going to start to work together? Tiamat Marduk doesn't fight GB68, and that might be the case. Tiamat Marduk's like, okay, you go. I'm going to get DRS off you on the next lap, and then I overtake you. And then just chop and change positions as the race goes on to try and work together and reel back in El Rey Guri and Tom97. But then there's a bit of a dilemma here for GB68, because that's his teammate, of course. Does he want to give other drivers the potential to overtake El Rey Guri and take some points maybe off the Aston Martin team? So instead, maybe for GB68, he's like, okay, cool, I'm going to let El Rey be up at the front, fight with Tom97. I'm going to try and finish 3rd in this race and get as many points for Aston Martin here.
Well, you forget one crucial fact, and that is that he's a racing driver, and all racing drivers want to win races. And so maybe that will be in the back of the mind, I want to win a race and go out there and get what is needed. Lap 34 of 66. We are over halfway here in the EA Creator Series. If you're jumping in for the first time, be it on YouTube, be it on Twitch. Hi, how you doing? Welcome to the party. It's Jake Sperry, it's Hayden Gullis. We've got TK on the clip book here and Dirk on production at this point. But this is the race. Tom97 and El Rey Guri. You've had 2 safety cars, and El Rey Guri pulls the pin and says, I will lead my home Grand Prix.
Yeah, great overtake there from El Rey Guri just to send it up the inside. I wasn't expecting him to make the overtake, as I said. I thought he would play the more intelligent game and wait and bide his time, and maybe saw that Tom 97, okay, I'm not going to get him without going wheel to wheel into turn 1. And unfortunately, he would have compromised himself slightly and lost a little bit of time from TM Marduk and GB68, who have switched positions in their attempt to try and catch up the leaders. As there's reports from TK that GB has hit the bump between turn 12 and turn 13 a few times already, but has gotten away with it. This is something that the drivers do need to watch out for. A little bit too aggressive with running wide on turn 12 and turn 13. It can literally, you know, spit you out into the gravel there and ruin your race. So it is something to be aware of. As you can see, Elray just moving to the right to stay away from that as much as possible. Tom 97 will be right on the back of Elray Guri here, and it should be a simple overtake, but a lot of understeer through the final corner. But now we'll get the DRS open, we'll head down the start-finish straight, and we'll retake the lead of the Spanish Grand Prix.
Absolutely easy for Tom at 97, and making sure that they are trading in tandem at the moment. It's very much like watching two breakaway riders in the peloton. Tour de France a couple weeks away, if not a week away at this moment in time, and they're trying to work that breakaway. There's Emphatic making that move on that guy Vince with a much healthier looking front wing now all of a sudden.
Yeah, I think they're doing the exact same thing. I think Emphatic and that guy Vince work really well together. They're two drivers that are very similarly matched on pace, and they know each other very well. They always have a similar idea, okay, let's work together to try and catch back up the field. It's an 8-second gap to his teammate. It's a big gap. But if you work together, it's the best chance to try and do that. I experienced that over, I believe it was in China, with that guy Vince and Emphatic working together to try and catch up to myself and to try and beat myself in that race. So those guys know what they're doing in those races. And just like we have seen at the front with Tom 97 and Elray Guri, GB68 and Team Marduk, they're going to be trading positions to try and close up that deficit.
Yeah, and you can see GB68, fastest lap of the race. Turn 9 feels sketchy every lap. That's the Campsa corner, and that is the off-camber right-hander up the hill, and that is always going to be very, very troublesome out there for these drivers. So if you go up over the top, you can very easily find yourself in a world of hurt. Very easy to understeer through that, or even oversteer and find the barriers on the inside. Now, if Tom 97 feels sketchy up over there, that really does tell you how hard he is having to push to keep Elray with him, and GB68 pulling the gap down to 1.5 seconds. An onslaught of Aston Martins right now. I think Tom 97's playing the Bond villain.
Yeah, I think he's got to be very worried because he's got two teammates now hunting him down. He doesn't have his teammate to back him because his teammate is down in 11th position and way out of this fight for the win. Another two who might cause a little bit of trouble if the rain comes down and throws something into the mix. Tom and Zafso, of course, have that potential to work together as well. But yeah, it certainly is GB68 closing in on Elray Guri. And Tom 97, he has to push that hard every lap because these drivers are so strong. Especially if there is rain on the way, there's not a reason to manage tyres and focus on getting to the end. No, it's about pushing until the rain stage, boxing for intermediate tyres, and then you're pushing once again. It is going to be a push all the way to the end of this race as Perya is going to be overtaken by Meraki, who has been struggling today, is down in 12th position, is looking for 11th. It's wheel to wheel between these two through the first corner. It looks like Perya might be able to hold on to the position, but Meraki will have the inside line going through the third corner. Perya way out wide through there, and Meraki moves up into 11th position. Something has happened in this race to MSkyZ as he has dropped down into 18th position, 35 seconds off the rest of the field. Now, we know what happened to Mr. Dale. He was a lap down, so that is why he is 40 seconds off the pace. But MSkyZ, again, I'm not too sure whether an instance happened, but again, he just hasn't been able to unlock that pace at F1 24 like he was in F1 23.
I think it's the fact that he's gone back onto a set of soft tyres, so I think he's pitted again. And on top of that, there was a yellow out in Sector 2 about 1.5 laps, 2 laps ago, which I think might have cost him 10 seconds. So that might be where MSkyZ's troubles and woes have found themselves in play. Looking now at 6th place. This is Tom, and he's got his eyes on the hard runner in Nogueira at this point, who was so brilliant in terms of finding his pass. Speaking of passes, Tiamat Marduk is finding his way back through. That will jump him back into third, and he really has to work hard now at this stage to try and keep Elray and Tom in check. Those two want to check out and make it a race of two. I tell you what, TMF Marduk and GB68 says, no, I want to make this a race of 9. Alex Gillen, for being backwards on the opening lap here, Hayden, is on the back of the group for the podium.
Yeah, has a good chance here in this race. Elray Guri once again overtaking Tom 97 there as well. And the gap just extended slightly by about 4 tenths, but it's coming down through the mid-stage. I think, just struggling in the dirty areas. Tom 97 and Elray Guri both doing a similar thing. They just struggle in the mid-section. It allows Team Marduk and GB just to close up slightly, but then down towards Sector 3 and into Turn 1, that's when Elray Guri and Tom 97 start to break away. But it's still over 1 second, and they're doing a good job right now to keep that gap over those drivers. It's going to be fundamental, especially as we get towards the wet period, because if they can stay over that set, but no, Elray Guri has just picked up a 3-second time penalty. So this working together is going to be even more important for the Aston Martin driver, because now they need to break a 3-second gap in order for Elray Guri to get some really strong points today.
Key diving down the inside will move up into 10th place, but Elray Guri in the championship lead with a rare error of 3 seconds worth of time penalty. Keep that in the back of the mind as Kalen makes the pass on that guy Vint. That might just change the complexity of this race, and that does change the way that Tom 97, GB68, TMF Marduk all look at it. The one person who won't know that, because he can't look that high up the timing tower as he's racing right now here, Hayden, is Alex Gillen, who'd be desperate now to jump to the front of the group.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll be told, though, and I'm looking at his chat, and he is. Elray, 3 seconds. Somebody has put in Alex Gillen's chat, so he's going to be well aware of this now. But what does Tom 97 do in this situation? Elray Guri leads the championship. Tom 97 is off by about 30 points. Does he now go, okay, I believe in myself. I've got the pace here in this race to still win. But I can back up Elray Guri and make him lose a lot more positions in this race. It could be some interesting tactics, a little bit of gamesmanship, or will Tom 97 be forever the sportsman and just want to do it on merit and hold that position? Change of positions there for F1 Scott and Meraki. F1 Scott into P10, but as soon as you're out of that train, out of that DRS, it's so difficult to get back in. There's a great teamwork going on down the field with Kalen, that guy Vince, and Infratic. But since we were last talking about those drivers, the gap was 8 seconds. It's now 11. So even though they're working together, just from being outside of a DRS train, they are still losing time. And for them, they've got to hope that a safety car comes out to give them any chance of scoring some really good points, because only really that guy Vince who's scoring points at the moment. So the last few laps, if it stays as it is going to be those three fighting for the last point.
I tell you what, it's a little bit too early, and I would say too dangerous for Tom 97 to start playing games up at the front of the field, backing up Elray Guri. I don't think that's going to be the way it goes about, but you are going to have to be so switched on to try and find it. Now, we do have yellows out Rob in Sector 3, because that is Rob turned around then over at Lakaiksa, and that can so easily happen, and he will go from being inside that top 10 to being out of it once more. So that is going to be a real hurt for him at the 2/3 way.
Yeah, update from TK on MSkyZ. Said wheel disconnected, got red wing damage from it and had to pit. So really unfortunate there for MSkyZ. Was having a better race weekend than we have seen in the previous two that he has done. Still not quite at the stage that he has been in previous seasons, of course, but finding progress and improvements. So unfortunate that that's happened to him. We'll be hoping for a safety car to score some good points in today's race. Elray Guri retakes the lead of this Spanish Grand Prix. Tom 97 still hot on his heels, though. And, of course, that chase impact unable right now to really break any more than a 1.7, 1.6 gap to the front two. Further down, Alex Gillen right on the back of this train at the moment. Then you've got Meraki, Scott fighting, and, of course, Rob now 4 seconds and kind of in no man's land after that spin, sadly for him.
Well, you now got to start wondering how well the medium tyres are going to be holding up then in terms of their stints, and they'll be keeping an eye out on what they want. out there. We'll take a look at Tom 97 trying to get through. In comes Safzo, so this will be an aggressive final stint to move to a set of soft compound tyres. Through goes Tom 97 to the race lead, Tiamat Marduk to third, and I think we might be able to get a small little look at what happened then in terms of Rob's incident out there, as there goes the change onto tyres, and well, TK, that was big.
It was indeed. It was unfortunate for Rob. Again, I think it's just tyres not necessarily warming up, maybe a little bit over-eager on the throttle. As you can see through the left-hander here, the rear end just kicks out. He tries to save it, but unfortunately into the gravel. Kept the car going, though. It's only about 3 or 4 seconds lost compared to the rest of the pack. He can get back into this.
He can. That was so violent, Hayden, and so sudden as well.
Yeah, we spoke about it earlier, just the traction through that section of corners. It's so difficult. As soon as you lose or get too aggressive with the traction through there, it's just kind of, it's too little too late, and it drops away from you, sadly, and that's exactly what happened there to Rob. I think that was the wise choice from Zafso to come into the boxes. Tom 97 has also picked up a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings, and if you're team at Marduk or your GB68, you are licking your lips at this stage of the race. Could it finally happen for GB68 to finally pick up a race win? Into the box, though, I believe comes another driver. Was that team at Marduk into the box? No, was getting overtaken by Nagera and GB68. All of these guys now thinking, right, I now need to be in P3. It doesn't matter whether I'm fighting those guys up at the front. We just need to catch up to them and be close to those guys as much as possible. Was a little correction there from Nagera. Nagera also never won a race in Creator Series history. Both him and GB will be hunting that down. What about Alex Gillen, though? What a story it could be for both Alex Gillen and Nagera. That spin early on, now to be fighting for a race win. Incredible stuff.
They can't afford to drop outside of 3 seconds. At the moment, it stands to the race lead, 2.5 right now for GB68. Tom 97 not happy about that bump. I think that tells the entire story right now of how he found his 3 seconds. He caught it just wrong, and it's so easy to do through that section of road out of Bank Sabadell over to Europe car 12 to 13. But now this is where everybody's summer of discontent has to be content. Tom 97 back to the point. Here goes Nagera, the hard tyres, remember. He'll feel like he is going to be good. And there are some people hearing on the radio that it might be rain in 10 minutes' time.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity for Nagera. He's probably got the best tyres of anybody right now, but the gap is 2.5 seconds to El Rey Guri, then another 0.4 of a second, 0.5 of a second to Tom 97. Tom 97 at the moment is safe to hold on to the race win. Those two at the front need to work together, drive away and break away that 3-second gap. But for Nagera, he needs to utilize those hard tires, utilize the grip that he still has to catch up to the 1 and 2 and try and get within their penalty window, maybe even potentially dragging the other drivers closer to that. Alex Gillen has dropped off the back. I think that's maybe because of Zafso coming into the pits. It lost him DRS, and then that has cost him to drop off the back of Tom now. He needs to try and regain and get close to these drivers to, of course, get a chance, as that guy Vince also picks up a 3-second time penalty to join his teammate on 3 seconds of penalties. That's going to be very unfortunate there for the Red Bull driver, because, of course, he's just within the point-scoring positions.
Focusing on Scott at this moment with Meraki in front. This is 8th and 9th. And if you're hearing the call, rain in 10 minutes, there's a couple drives who've come into the pits. Safzo is the one who is in trouble with that strategy call, because he's now got 10 minutes effectively to go out there and push to the gills, because he had to come in early. So we're thinking maybe lap 54 might be when we're expecting the heavens to open. As we know, Hayden, in Spain, it doesn't just rain in Spain, it pours.
Oh, yeah, and we got yellow flag sector 3. I'm not too sure if that's going to throw anything into the mix, as Meraki goes right around the outside of F1 Scott there. These guys battling so hard. I think they've realized, okay, we're not going to get any higher positions in this race. Let's just fight it out, as Mr. Dale comes into the pit lane, retires. He's 1 lap down, thinks that this race is done, unfortunately for him. And another sad day, unfortunately, there for Mr. Dale. His F1 season is not going to plan, but hopefully over the rest of the course of the season, there's opportunities to score some really decent points. But yeah, for these drivers, Meraki down to Matty D, I think they've realized, okay, we're not fighting for the podium. We're not fighting with Alex Gillen and upwards. let's scrap hard and try and get P8.
Look at the gaps right now. It is fluctuating at 2.4. Here goes El Rey Geary to the outside. No arguments from Tom 97. Another change of position then for the race lead. And Nogueira just about gets it done. But look at how much time he loses trying to get that pass done. He's at 2.8, 2.9 seconds. It's right on the cusp of El Rey and Tom, and this is going to be all about what he's going to be hoping for. And when you've got GB and Tiamat Marduk sitting there, I'm sure they're thinking about one thing and one thing only. If they've got the call for rain coming through, they want track position. Mr. Dale's feeling happy. Best game he's ever played.
Yeah, absolutely loving the F1 24 game from EA Sports there. So, Mr. Dale, unfortunate for him, but at least he's having fun out there, even when you are struggling, enjoying driving out on track. So, at least that's nice to see that from Mr. Dale. We look forward to seeing him back next week and seeing what he can do later on. There is, at the moment, Matty D hunting down F1 Scott. A quiet performance from Matty D, but, you know, not quite up at the heights that he had in Qatar, but will be still scoring some decent points in this race as well. So nice stuff to see there. As up at the front, Tom 97, El Rey Geary switching again. Look at the gap behind. Nogueira now 3 seconds behind El Rey Geary. So these two is working out and they are safe. I don't know whether that was a mistake from Nogueira. GB68 closes up quite a lot down the start-finish straight to 2.7, but it's still right on the cusp of those front two, and whether they can gain on those penalties, of course.
They do have to keep that in mind as they go through. Tiamat Marduk sneaking away through into fourth as well, I think, was rather key in terms of unlocking that as we are inside 20 laps to go, quite firmly here at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya, a circuit which, by all intents and purposes here, Hayden, is the dyno test of all racetracks here in F1 24.
Yeah, it's got a bit of everything around here. Gives you an opportunity to really be the complete driver if you can maximise your lap time around here, as Nogueira is now coming under pressure from Tom and Alex Gillen. Those hard tyres seem to have just dropped off massively, and even Tiamat Marduk dropping off and away from GB68 here. GB68 might be able to break clear, and this is not really what this group needs. They need to be close to one another in order to work together. Tiamat Marduk needs to be a lot closer to GB68. Here comes Alex Gillen trying it on Tom. Tom decides, you know what, not going to fight it. I want to try and see what can happen at the end of this race. They're going 3 wide. No, they're not, but Nogueira up the inside. GB68, a little bit of contact between the two of them. That unsettles Alex Gillen, who's going to have a look right around the outside of turn 3. Unable to do so, but might switch it back to the inside. And now we'll have the inside line into turn 4. GB goes for a slight squeeze. Unable to do anything about it. Alex Gillen up the inside. Those two made contact down to turn 1. Just about avoided contact through turn 4.
Alex Gillen has just been quiet in the way he's been picking this one up. Round the outside of Sayat, over to Verth. If he's on the wrong side of the road, it's going to be tough for him, and as such, he backs out of it and lets GB68 hold on to it. He needs to keep that collusion going through. GB68, why are you sending it there? Why? Why? He is incensed in the sense that Nogueira's going for it, Tiamat Marduk's going for it right now, and these drivers are suddenly in a situation of inmates running the asylum, realising that they're letting El Rey and Tom get away, as Scott now picks up 3 for his troubles.
Yeah, I think they've thrown away the race win here unless the safety car or something happens to bring them back in it, as M-Sky Z now picks up a 3-second time penalty as well. But all of that battling has just allowed the gap. Look at it, 3.6 seconds now over Tiamat Marduk, and that's just El Rey to 3rd position. Nogueira now takes that 3rd position, but it's still 3.6 seconds between those guys. Both the front two are safe, that if they keep on working together until lap 64, then they can start to fight it out on the last lap and might not lose out too much time fighting for the race win, of course. But maybe for El Rey Geary, he's thinking, do you know what? I'm happy P2. It's consistency. I'm on the podium once again. This is a great opportunity to fight for the championship. So things are looking good once again at the front after a little momentarily blip where they picked up their penalties and we thought, okay, they've thrown this away.
Well, you got to remember as well, that's 3 seconds to El Rey Geary, not Tom 97. So right now, that's nearly 4 seconds now the gap out there at this point. Nogueira, never been on the podium. Tiamat Marduk, who has been a serial winner in this series. GB68 hoping he's going to get some spoils as well. So now you get a sense of what these drivers want and how much each position means, not just on an individual basis, but in a context basis as well. Alex Gillen, safety car! Safety car! Alex Gillen's got no front nose!
That is huge for the potential race win. Tom97 and El Rey Guri will have their head in their hands right now, because that has thrown away a potential race win for both of them. Luckily for the two of them, they get past the safety car. They have an opportunity for a free pit stop. Whether they decide to take this and go, okay, let's jump on intermediate tires. We know the rain's on the way. Could it come down by the time the safety car comes in? MSkyZ, probably the furthest driver away. It's going to be about 2-3 laps before we get this race back underway. So there is an opportunity for those guys to come into the pits, put on a new set of intermediate tyres and box. But it is a risk. If the rain doesn't come down, you've potentially thrown away a chance of a race win. But if it does come down, you're going to look like a hero and have an even bigger gap ahead of the rest of the group. Tom, I believe, came into the box as well. Alex Gillen, of course, no front wing. I'm sure we'll get a replay of what has happened there. But this is a great opportunity for Nogueira to get his first race win. No podiums for Nogueira ever. He could get his first podium with a race win. And of course, GB68, who has got 14 podiums in the history of Creator Series, but has never got a race win. Could that happen today? I believe TK has some information of Alex Gillen. What's happened there?
I tell you what, it's certainly a controversial one. We've mentioned it all throughout the show, that infamous bump on the final couple of corners, those right-handers, and we can watch our board here with Alex Gillen slightly loses the car, clips something on the runoff there, and into the wall he goes, completely losing his front wing on the barrier. Fortunately enough, of course, right by the pit lane, you can see Tom just in front of him diving in as well. But I can, if I can pause this and slow it down really quickly, just while we have the safety car period, you can see him kind of going around the right-hander. He starts to lose the rear of the car, tries to save it, and into the wall he goes. It is really unfortunate. There we go, saves it, and over the curb he goes.
Wow, and just like that, that's how quickly it can all fall apart there. And Alex Gillen there with the wherewithal. Tom, I think, was so switched on to realise, right, safety car. That is as late can be to dive into the pits. Credit where credit is due. And, of course, making those stops, everybody thinking about what they want to get onto and giving themselves that opportunity to attack. We're on lap 52 here of 66, and we've still got sunshine beaming down here at the Circuit de Catalunya, Barcelona. So you get the sense that if it is going to rain, it's going to rain hard and it's going to rain late. But at the moment, I don't see that rain coming at the moment. And so right now, you just got to race to assume that there is no rain there, and you're still throwing everything you can at the board, hoping it's going to stick. Tom97 and El Rey Giri will be looking behind, and Nogueira, who's done 3 stops, look at it. Everybody behind. The next 4 drivers on softs, Alex Gillen on mediums.
This is a very strange strategy call from Tom97. Hard tyres when you've got a 3-second time penalty. El Rey also on mediums compared to the other drivers on softs. Now this is a strange one. We know rain is potentially on the way, but they're going to really struggle on the safety car restart, and that's going to allow the opportunity. Alex Gillen will be furious at that bump as soon as it happened, but I think that this has given him a great opportunity to take a race win here, because it's brought those guys with the 3-second time penalty straight back to him. And he's also right on the back of this battle. So potentially that bump in the road has thrown him into the wall, and he could potentially cause his own race win just from that. It's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, of course, but strange strategy call from Tom97 and El Rey Guri. Hards and mediums, I'm not sure that's going to work out for them in the short run. Maybe if there's no rain, but if there is, it's going to be difficult.
It would be quite apropos if that's the way that Alex Gillen finds his way back to victory out there overall. There is MSkyZ, who will be the last car to jump onto the back of the Aston Martin safety car, which is there at the moment. Is that a signal of anything? That's the question. Keep an eye on the skies. The clouds could definitely roll in, but Tom97 and El Rey Giri have 3 seconds to make in terms of time, knowing that Nogueira, Tiamat Marduk, GB68 and Tom all have soft compound tyres to go out and say, you know what? We can go and outrun you And if there is rain on the way, it's a question of how well that goes. You can see Tom right now here, Hayden. He is desperate to get some heat in. Oh, he's got around!
Oh.
He's got around safety car, my word!
Tom 97 has thrown the race win away with a poor strategy call and then put him in a situation where he's got to really aggressively heat up the tyres and he's just put himself in the wall. He's broken his front wing, and unless a miracle happens for Tom 97, this is race done. And this is what I mean with Tom 97. He's the fastest driver on this grid. I think it's fair to say from anybody, I think they would all agree that Tom 97 is the fastest driver on the grid. But he just makes these small errors, and whether that's out on track or it's strategy calls, and that is why he has never won a championship so far in Creative Series. He has to come into the boxes. Lucky he's still under safety car conditions. Nearly ruins his race by hitting the wall on the outside. Now I'm interested to see, does he take a gamble? Does he go on to intermediate tyres? When is that rain coming down? Will he go to inters?
Don't believe what I've just seen there. That is as unforced as an unforced error gets as he goes through. We'll take another look at exactly how this all came about as he's working his tyres. It's through Verth, and as he's putting it through, you need the downforce really there, Hayden, through that section. You can't be playing games through Verth corner.
Not only the downforce, you need the grip and you need temperature in your tyres, which you just really didn't have. It is so difficult to get tyre temps, and this is why I question the call to go onto hard tyres, because you're going to be starting this race with blue tyres. You won't be able to get any temperature in, no matter what you do. There is no way you can get temperature into these tyres. So to do that through that section of corners, you're just asking for trouble. And I think the smile says it all there for Tom 97. He's frustrated with himself, of course, but he knows where to have fun around here, and I'm glad that he's able to smile through it. And now he has the opportunity to go and have some fun. I don't know what tyres he went on to. He only had used softs apparently from TK, and he didn't think they would last. So the driver's still unsure whether this rain is going to come down by the end of the session. The safety car is coming in this lap, and it's El Guri all by himself who's going to lead the way from medium tyres.
Well, can the King of Spain find a way to hold off an onslaught behind? He will have the Iberian behind, the Portuguese driver of Nogueira, gunning for his first victory. It's 3 seconds to build, and what do you have to throw something at the wall? You've got to make it stick, but everyone else is looking around, and that's an early gun then from El Rey, but I don't think he's got enough of what he wants. We'll be back underway and racing here on lap 55 of 66, 12 laps to go. Here comes Tiamat Marduk, looking here with the slipstream, hoping he can get close enough. No, runs out of battery to make it happen.
It's going to be very difficult now in this race for El Guri with that 3-second time penalty over his name. He's going to need to hope and pray the drivers behind get a little bit too aggressive with each other, or those soft tyres struggle to make it to the end of this race. El Guri playing the long game, trying to get to the end on those mediums. Rain apparently is imminent, so it is coming down any moment now. For Tom 97, it could have been a good gamble to go onto the intermediate tyres and see what would have happened. M-Sky Z back in this race. Tom 97 at the back of the field as well. We're watching Matty D right on the back of Perya. All these drivers, or a lot of these drivers on softs, if they have them available to them. Here is Tom on the back of GB68. Both these drivers on soft tyres. They don't want to get too aggressive with each other. Tom dives it around the outside. If he can pull off this overtake, that would be beautiful. And I'll have the inside line now into the right-hander. And that is an incredible overtake from the Alpine driver. If he can make it stick, GB68 shoved the door closed and has to settle for P5.
That was well crafted by Tom in the Alpine. Fastest lap for Nogueira then as he crosses the line, and this is where the next scramble is going to be. DRS now is active, and on the next lap they will find those opportunities. Now they do not have to pass El Guri on track to win this race, but there is so much going on here that if you even hesitate for a second here, Hayden, this could be the sort of race where Nogueira just looks backwards.
Yeah, certainly so. We've seen it so many times in the past in Creative Series as Perya and Zafso go wheel to wheel. Zafso would drive right at the front earlier on, but got shafted by strategy calls. There's a dive there from the Red Bull of that guy Vince on Matty D, unable to pull it off. But yeah, it's going to be all about getting the right call now if you go on to intermediate tyres? Or will the rain come late enough that potentially you stay on the dries and the intermediates won't get the benefit of taking that pit stop? That is something that's going to unfold. Tom 97 now up to P16, now up to P15, working his way through the order. But for Nogueira, he's going to want to get past El Guri because it just gives you that little cushion, a little bit of comfortability that you're ahead of him. Keep El in second, and that gives you a great chance of taking that race win. But so many times, as I've said, we have seen Nogueira just make these small little errors when he's been in this position before. Can he finally overcome that and take his first race win?
Well, here's how close it's going to be. Nogueira to the inside. Watch out for TMM Marduk! Trying to find a way, he can't. Now trying to find that angle. He gets shot in the gravel. There by El Rey. And suddenly, there are championship implications finding their way forward. TMM Marduk now with Alex Gillen.
Old rivals coming to blows. TMM Marduk and El Guri. As TMM Marduk just shoved Alex Gillen off the track as well from one rivalry to another. And I just know Alex Gillen will not be happy with that. And TMM Marduk saying really after the El Guri one. And I'm sure Alex Gillen is going to be saying the exact same thing to what TMM Marduk did to him. As the rain is coming down. Yes, you called it well. The rain is falling. But how long is it going to be until we get onto those intermediate tyres?
Nogueira, you have 10 laps, soon to be 9, to hold off as it starts to bucket here in Barcelona and make sure this race is all yours.
He's
1 second clear at this moment, and look behind as now you've got Tom and you've got GB68. Now the big key for the crossover is watch when the DRS gets shut off. Tom through. Oh, that was close for GB68. He nearly got taken out there with El Rey.
Yeah, we're sort of undecisive about whether he wanted to overtake his teammate or not, and it was a very last-minute call about deciding, okay, I need to go for it. I need to get past him as soon as possible, because if he gets stuck behind his teammate, there's a 3-second time penalty, and we're going to intermediate tyres. He needs to be ahead of his teammate coming into the pits in order to not get held up when it is the optimal time to come into the box. This race has fallen away from El Guri and Tom 97 all down to that final safety car, and Alex Gillen just being thrown into the wall and breaking his front wing. Alex Gillen down into 9th position now, but look at this. El Guri and TMM Marduk back close together. Is TMM Marduk going to take revenge in this race and be overly aggressive with the Aston Martin driver?
Look at Tom chase this gap down. It's now 0.6 of a second. Every lap is a gamble. Do you want to go one more, or do you decide to bail out for intermediate tyres? This is what the race is at right now. Nobody wants to be the guinea pig, but who decides? I think TMM Marduk might decide he wants to try and come in. Look at how it conglomerates through as everybody's looking around for what they need. In comes GB68. In comes almost everyone now. It's a mad scramble for the pits.
It really is. This is crunch time right to the end. Have they got the right call? And also, are there enough laps in this race that the intermediates are the right tyre to go on? Because we've only got 6-7 laps left to go in this race now. Let's see how this all unfolds. Team radio for Tom. It's too early to pit as the RB there of Perya getting held up by his teammate coming into the box. Here's up at the front. Tom right behind Nogueira. Could this be the strategy call that gives GB68 his first win in the Creator Series? This is 54th race, and he has yet to get onto the top step of the podium, but it could happen today. He is in a good position to fight for it if he has made the right strategy call. Tom all over the back of Nogueira, but the soft tyres still look like they're working well.
El Guri couldn't come in and pit, so he stayed out one more. Tom is looking really, really good at this one, but Nogueira is holding his mettle. This might be a battle of where do you come out of the pit. DRS gets disabled. Now surely's the time for these drivers to dive in for the pit. Look at how much El Rey's fighting, gliding in about through Europe car. In comes your top 3.
Yeah, into the box. Nobody wanted to take that gamble to see whether the intermediate tyres will have enough, as El Guri had a little look and it gets stopped dead coming into the pit lane. So trying to attempt an overtake on Tom there has actually lost him even more time in this race, and that's going to be really disappointing there for the Aston Martin driver. Alex Gillen also into the box. Where are they all going to come out? Where they're going to come out around GB68? Did he make the right call, or was it better to go one lap longer? Here comes GB68, and it was the right call as TMM Marduk goes to take the lead around the outside, and he does it, taking away the win at the moment from his friend GB68. TMF Marduk takes the lead.
Well, don't count Nogueira out of this. He's only at 1 second, so he could jump and really try and close this up. A look at Repsol from GB68's not there. TMF Marduk with bundles and bundles of experience right now. Arguably the most experience of any driver in the EA Creator Series. He looks behind at GB68 and goes, you know what? You're going to have to try and get through me, sunshine.
Yeah, certainly will. Team Radio from GB68 says that he's struggling at this stage of the race. So whether that was from earlier, from dry tyres, but if that's on the inters, no, it is. It's from the inters. It's from right now. So he is struggling. Maybe had too much of a dry setup and is struggling now in these latter stage of the race, handing potentially the race win to TMF Marduk. How this has unfolded. It was so comfortable for Tom97 and El Rey Guri, and now TMF Marduk looking to be up at the top. There's going to be certainly some questions over his racecraft in the incident with Alex Gillen. He's not going to be happy with that at all. And there will be talks between those two after this race. But for GB68, he needs to find something now. He needs to get comfortable with the car, and he needs to push this. Tom goes around the outside of Nogueira.
Well, don't count Tom out here. He's desperate to try and find a way through. It's covered off in terms of those moves, and every which way you look, it's now a scramble to where you get to. Right now, if you're Alex Gillen down in 11th place, you've got to make moves right now because El Rey Guri is only in 7th with 3 seconds worth of penalty, and now every point is going to matter. TMF Marduk is walking himself right back into the fray with Spielberg on the horizon. Look at this side-by-side for ME13 and Safso.
Yeah, Safso trying to climb back through the field after a few strategical, cool errors in this race, and it looks like it's working out for him. He's up into 8th position, and this has been a good recovery drive so far from Safso on the back of F1 Scott, who's had a fantastic call there to shoot himself up into P6. And look at Meraki. We were talking about him earlier, not having the pace. Maybe he had a wet setup, was all focused about the end of this race, and now is up at the front in the top 5, having great opportunities for some really good points today. Tom97 on the recovery as well, gets past Emmy, now into P9, and goes on the attack of Zafso with only a handful of laps remaining. GB68, though, still tucked up behind TMF Marduk. Are we going to get to a situation where potentially the wet tyres are the better ones in this race? The rain's coming down.
Yeah, and Scott gets another 3 seconds, so he'll be now at 6, and that will be help for Safso and Tom97, who's looking for 8th place, but he's got 3 seconds of penalty himself at this moment on the brakes. And suddenly, it's now a group of 4 at the front of this field, all split by 7/10 of a second, with TMF Marduk, GB68, Nogueira, and Tom all there together. But now you start wondering, where's the gaps here in terms of this one? There is El Rey. He's looking for a way past Meraki, and that's Tom. And Alex Gillen behind him, I think, has just picked one up now, and he finds himself P10.
Yeah, I'm watching Alex Gillen at the moment. GB68 at the moment. He's just really struggling with the car and losing a little bit of time there to TMF Marduk. You can see the gap over 1 second. Of course, no DRS in these conditions, but it's still something you want to be close within that 1 second as El Rey Guri gets past Meraki very nicely on the inside through the fast right-hander, and Meraki won't fight that too hardly as El Rey Guri has that 3-second time penalty over his name, trying to break away as far as possible, as is Tom97. This battle at the back, though, Perya and Infratic, as Perya loses the rear end, and that's going to allow Infratic to have a look around the outside into this tricky left-hander. It's all about attraction out of this corner, and unfortunately for him, Perya gets it done, but now the switchback maneuver, unable to come from it, and he stays at the back of the field.
It is absolutely throwing it down. 4 laps are left. 63, 64, 65, and the all-important lap 66. This is Alex Gillen hoping for a way to try and find his path on Safso for position. At this moment in time, this race hangs on a knife's edge for every single driver in this field. 1 second for TMF Marduk, GB68 for a first win, Nogueira for a first win and first podium, and Tom looking to kickstart his season as he finds himself way down the order in the championship. This is some brilliant stuff right now, on board with Nogueira.
Yeah, this is very important for Tom, of course, because he's only got 1 point so far this season, and Monaco fell away from him, Canada fell away from him, and hopefully for him this time around, something won't go wrong at the Spanish Grand Prix. As Nogueira all over the back of GB. GB struggling quite a lot now. Nogueira needs to get past GB68 on this lap in order to try and hunt down TMF Marduk and take that first race win in his Creator Series career. Tom is just sitting behind, watching this battle, knowing that he can't really get involved with anything at this stage of the race. And then there's El Guri closing up to this lot, but won't really bother about trying to overtake them because he just wants to break away from the rest of the field to try and get a 3-second cushion over Meraki. It's 2 seconds at the moment and building.
Yeah, and that's the key. Every place El Guri can get is more that he can defend himself with. Here comes Nogueira down the inside. Little bit of contact side to side. And now they'll scrap. Here through 2. Slight push off the road. Watch out. Down the inside. Tom might try the Hamilton and get this one sorted. He might get 1 for it. And that is GB68, who might be thrown all the way back to 4th place after holding 2nd just a few corners ago. And there he loses it. My word.
Yeah, a little bit of contact there between him and Nogueira. Don't think he was happy because he gave retaliation straight away to the Mercedes driver, put him all the way on the runoff area, not quite into the gravel that we saw with El Guri and Team Marduk earlier on in this race. And unfortunately, with those two fighting, just opened the door for Tom. And now El Guri right on the back of this battle. Team Marduk, Team Radio, I'm quick in the rain. And he certainly is. 2 seconds a lead at the moment. But what does Nogueira have now that he's got a bit of free air? Can he close in that gap? Or is it too little, too late? The gap between El Guri and Meraki, 2.3 seconds at the moment. It's Tom 97 right on the back of the Williams driver. Here's a battle further down the field though. Alex Gillen fighting with Scott. Doesn't need to fight with him because of course he has penalties, but will want to stay as close as possible to Tom 97 and maybe even El Guri in this race to gain those points.
Well, he's got to stay within 3 seconds, and right now he's 2 seconds away. Out there as they go. More penalty then for Scott. He's now put 9 seconds, and this is Matty 13. 2 laps to go here at a sodden Barcelona. We're going to take a very quick replay here, and this is what happened then for the move for Nogueira.
Yep, seizing the opportunity on GB68, had the straight line speed on the Aston Martin driver. The door was open, went for a lunge on the inside. Did he get the car slowed down in time? I'll let you guys at home make the judgment. A little bit of contact with GB68, forced him right off the track there. Was lucky not to get any warnings through that corner. Kept his foot in though, and we've seen it in qualifying. Nogueira really good, and maybe one of the drivers with some of the fastest hands on the grid. He's just able to catch the car if there is a little bit of unsettledness inside his Mercedes. And that happened certainly right there. GB68 put him on the dirty stuff, compromised him, but he was able to maintain it very nicely. As El Guri now tries to go for the overtake on his teammate. GB68's just got to concede this position now and try and help his teammate and score some good points for Aston Martin. Not fight with El Guri, because if he does that, that allows Meraki to come back into it and potentially score some extra points over him. GB68 is going to get P4 anyway, and unfortunately for him, without the rain, had an opportunity for the race win, but since the rain's come down, just does not have the pace now.
1 lap remains here at Barcelona, and I think the gap's enough at the moment for El Guri versus Meraki. Tom 97 has found a way through. Rob will take 3 seconds of penalty then to the line on this final lap. Nogueira looking for his first podium, has just about built a margin here to Tom, and Tom now looking for on merit this podium. Now is thinking about, well, I've got to find a way to get back to Nogueira here in what are atrocious wet conditions at this moment. Driving about through the Repsol corner here in the dramatic on these final laps of this race, and hoping that there is going to be a way to jump forward. There is still a sting in the tail yet to come, you may feel. Now heading to Verth corner, El Rey right now is seeing that the king might be dethroned at this point. Straight down the inside of Kamsa on the final lap. How often do you see that move done? That is a great pass there, but it will be Pyrrhic in terms of what he is looking for, because you have to look at Tiamat Marduk, and right now he found pace in the rain, bided his time. Yes, he had contact, but look out through Europcar, because Tiamat Marduk is going to conquer Catalan down through New Holland. Tiamat Marduk wins it in Barcelona.
Tiamat Marduk takes home his 9th race win in Creator Series in his career, and he is going to be very, very happy about that one. Puts him 1 step closer to closing up to El Guri and Alex Gillen, who finished in P5 and P7 respectively in today's race. A lot of points gained on both those guys. But for Nogueira, he takes home his first podium in Creator Series. Great result for him there, and of course Tom picking up the final place on the podium as well. What a fantastic race that was in Spain. It had a bit of everything. It had safety cars, it had mixed strategies, it had a little bit of rain at the end to really throw something in there. And of course, for somebody who's going to be looking back on that race of what could have been, Tom 97, that mistake under the safety car cost him massively. But the man of the moment, Tiamat Marduk, back on top. The reigning world champion is looking to try and go back to back.
Absolutely wondrous driving, and it shows that patience truly is a virtue. You do not need to lead at the opening section of the race. Tiamat Marduk made a few switches here and there, but when the gap opened up with Tom, when the gap opened up with El Rey, he didn't panic. He just waited for an opportunity to try and find a way back through. But there are going to be a lot of talking points coming out of this Barcelona race, knowing that it's just 1 week's turnaround that goes along through over towards Spielberg and the Red Bull Ring going through. Alex Gillen will drop points here on El Rey Geary. He'll drop about 4 on this one, so that will build that gap back up. But Tiamat Marduk on a day here right now, Hayden, where he needed to wake up and find a way forward for his first victory of the season. My word, did he just deliver.
Yeah, great result there for Tiamat Marduk to move himself closer at the front of the championship. And yeah, as you said, was 20 something points off the top guys. That's certainly going to come down today. He's not going to be leading the championship. He's not going to be as close as maybe he would want to be, but it just puts him a little step closer with this long season still yet to come. Fantastic drive there from the McLaren driver. And also, surprisingly, a great drive in the end for Meraki as well to score some good points. Someone that I was saying earlier on, and he said on the team radio, he's struggling with pace, struggling to find that pace, but in that latter stage of the race, just kept it clean, picked up a really decent result, and I think he finished in the top 7, top 6 of that race. So good stuff there for Meraki.
Well, Maraki's actually really underrated in terms of his performance, and he can go off of this race and really smile, Hayden, because he was down at the halfway stage of this race in 16th position, feeling like he'd completely lost everything. All hope was basically lost. A safety car late and a couple bits of fortune, and suddenly it's all there for him.
Yeah, and that's just the nature of Creator Series, that it's not necessarily all about those first few laps. And that's why you see a lot of the drivers not really fighting too many positions in the early stages of the race. It's all about the end. And yes, it's never guaranteed that you're going to get a safety car. It never is. Some races you just don't have it. China, I think last season, we never got a safety car, and that's what a lot of drivers were hoping for. But if it does come and you've kept yourself clean, you've got no penalties, you have got a great chance at scoring some really, really good points. It's kind of like the Indy 500 in a sense. It's just about getting from safety car to safety car to safety car, and then when that final safety car comes in, let's go for it. Let's see what I can get.
Well, we're going to get a chance now to talk to some of our drivers, and where else to start than with your race winner, Tiamat Marduk, who is here with us right now. Ben Daly, what a performance that was. The heavens opened, and suddenly you found your water wings.
I did. I mean, I kind of set up for that in the end. Yeah, I got my oars out, and I went on early to intermediate tyres. Me and GB took the punt, took the gamble. I felt a small couple of moments on that penultimate lap before boxing. I was like, oh, it feels a little bit early, and we just got the call right. I think they lost a lot of time in sector 3 on that extra lap that they did, and then yeah, had to overtake GB. I knew I had to get him early while he was still getting used to the conditions, because after the dust settles, especially in the rain, it's very hard to overtake.
Talk about then through the earlier phases of the race, there was a bit of chop and change, and then Tom and El Rey managed to break away in terms of the race. It felt very disjointed with a couple of early safety cars that came through, and then moving on into just after that final safety car, where you just added one to the collection of Alex Gillen videos of incidents between you and him.
Yeah, I look forward to the Monday debrief on that one. On the subject of one of those restarts, I had too much fuel. I was carrying too much. I thought this was going to be a fuel burner, and I melted my engine to try and burn some fuel off in the safety car. And then we get to the safety car restart halfway through the race, and my engine's on 190 degrees, and my tires are on about 60. So the tires were blue, the engine was red. I had no pace there. That's probably where the link in the chain was broken. But yeah, we learned from that, and then we put our best foot forward for the rest of the race.
So your best foot forward now. You close on El Rey, you close on Alex Gillen. No Racing here today, so that will be a case view of this was the ultimate win. It's now completely different when you move to next week and the Red Bull Ring over in Spielberg. So how do you take this momentum and generate it to a high speed, all important overtaking track?
It's kind of similar characteristics. There's not many slow speed corners, and I think I do well at high speed, medium high speed tracks, like we saw here. And Austria is one of my favorite tracks. So I think last time we raced here, I won. So I'd like to hope that I can carry that momentum again. But it's hard to tell. I mean, my pace is a little bit wishy-washy on F1 24, so we'll have to wait and see.
Well, it doesn't matter if it's wishy-washy if you're fast in the rain. Let's put it like that. Ben, before we let you go, anybody you'd like to thank? It's a major victory for you here today in Barcelona.
I'd like to thank Hayden Gullis for trading me one of his shiny Mewtwo's a couple of years ago. It really helped with...
That's all you need.
It really helped me with the good luck charm today.
Well, 700 IVs and a little bit more. You've got everything that you want and then some. Tiamat Marduk with a major victory here today around this wonderful Barcelona track, getting it all done and dusted. We are going to have the opportunity as well to talk to the driver who finished off with a wonderful result as well here today. Tom is here. He stood by with Hayden Gullis.
Hello!
Oh, there he is!
Yo!
On the podium, finally this season. Congratulations, buddy. Were the nerves settling in the end of that race? Was the leg getting a little bit shaky after the start of the season so far?
We are so back! I had 1 point after the first 3 races. This is my worst start to a flipping Creator Series campaign ever. And I needed this. So the last lap with El Rey on my heels. Hey, fair play to him. He did a very clean move. I didn't expect him to go for a move because he had a 3-second penalty. But obviously when he went for the move, I was like, yeah, let him just go. Because if I'm going to fight this, GP's going to sweep by. So I'm very happy.
Did you feel like at any point that the race win was on the cards? Especially once the top 2 got those 3-second time penalties.
Yeah, man, dude. I mean... in the middle of the race, not so much. But at the end of the race, when we were on the softs, I think I was the only one really in the first 2-3 laps to kind of make up positions. I went from I think it was P6 on the restart to P5, P4, P3. Then it was P2. And then, unfortunately, I pitted 1 lap too late. I didn't know when the rain was going to hit enough. And then we got undercut by both Tiamat Marduk and GB. And they did very well. I literally said, like, they're too early. Because last week, or 2 weeks ago in Canada, I went too early and I messed up. So I was too cautious, and that otherwise I could have fought for the win, I think. But yeah, it is what it is.
We go to Austria next. That's the next race that's coming up. Will that be business as usual for you with a DNF or 1 point, or are we gonna change things around now? And it's like, right, podium consistency, just like when you won the championship.
We are so back to DNFing next race for sure, mate. Easy clap. Yeah, it'll be a DNF once again. But it will be, just like always, doing the whole race, being in a good position, fighting for the points, fighting for maybe the podium. And then last race or last lap, losing the car or forgetting to take a turn and then getting a penalty or rear wing damage like last week.
Good pace as well from your teammate in that race as well.
Oh, he was buzzing.
I noticed you two were working nicely together. We had some team radio from you. There was like... Zafso's a W teammate because he allowed you to easily get past him, and that obviously helped you get with the rest of the train when he was struggling. I think unfortunate for Zafso to be shafted a little bit with the strategy calls today. Is Alpine still in contention?
Oh, Alpine is so back, mate.
You're all back.
You know what the thing is? We have very good qualifyings every single week, and then in the race something happens. So I think I said it at the start of the season, right? You've made a mistake by putting Sevzo and me together. You've seen it in this race already, working together. Also in the qualifying, Sevzo gave me a big slipstream. Straight away after that, I gave him a big slipstream. We worked together very nicely. So I think, especially with our 1 point, and I think Sevzo was only 11 points, but before that he had 0 points as well, or 2 points or something. think we're a bit of an underdog this season, so yeah, don't count us out.
Let's see how it unfolds for you both over the rest of the season. Congratulations, Tom, once again on the podium. And as
Merci.
I say, hopefully it's not too long before we have a chat with you again in these interview rating rooms.
Probably never again.
Well, there you have it. There is Tom getting a fantastic result overall. Very quickly, I think we can jump in with MSkyZ, who I think wants to have a little bit of a chat here right now. MSkyZ, not the day that the doctor ordered. Talk us through your day.
Well, it was crap, to say polite.
Well,
just awful.
Sometimes you do get those days. For you as a driver, being in a position where in F1 23, you were on the top of your game, you were looking absolutely fantastic in terms of that pace. What has been the difficulty for you adjusting to F1 24?
Well, we had a good game, now we had a bad game, so that's the main point. It's not that simple. The pace is not what it showed today. I had more pace than that. I was doing 11.3 in some trainings, so I could fight for the top 5, but I did a mistake in my Q1 lap and another mistake after that. So it's just not a pace-wise, just too many mistakes on my own. My wheel disconnected also twice during the race, which caused me to go straight into the wall. And it was a lonely race after that, after like the lap 27, 28. So I spent 40 laps a bit alone, and it was a bit difficult to overtake, despite 2 DRS zones. But yeah, overall the results are worse than the pace should be. I should be fighting for like top 6, top 5, top 7, something like that, but I'm just making too many mistakes, but that's on me. And I just don't understand pretty much the game still. I was confident before the race, but yeah, just too many mistakes. GG to everyone that finished the race ahead of me, which means everyone. So I will be back one day, just I don't know when.
Well, you beat Mr. Dale, so you can have a smile in that respect. But for you, hardware hijinks aside, looking over then to Spielberg, how are you looking at trying to wrest control? Do you think that it's going to be a little bit easier when it comes to the Red Bull Ring, seeing as there's maybe less places to have that more natural error?
I don't know. Tell that to my wheel. I just want a full race without any problem. No disconnection, no spins, nothing. So we'll see. Last time in Austria, I was winning the race and I got a disconnection with the wheel. So let's see. Perhaps this time I will get more luck, but it's not a problem for me to be that far off. At least for the storytelling, the day I will be up there, it will be a fun one. So yeah, let's see. Let's bounce back if possible in Austria, but it's fun to battle in the midfield. I used to battle a lot with Fabio, which is quite nice every time. So at least I got those good battles, at least.
Hashtag give MSkyZ a new wheel. I think we need to get that trending for you, mate, so you can get yourself back up there. But unfortunate for you today, we hope to see you back up nearer the top of the field soon. MSkyZ there, joining us then for a little bit of a conversation forward. But Hayden, I think now's the time. We've got to talk championship again.
Yeah, let's take a look at the championship standings and how it all unfolds after that 4th round of the season. Not quite yet up on our screens. Here it comes. Here comes the championship. Let's have a little look. And it is still Eric Guri who leads the way. 83 points. Extends his lead over Alex Glenn now. 7-point gap between those two. Timo Marduk, though, takes a step closer. 13 points off of the top in this championship. Then it's Tom97 in 4th position. On 44, Matty D. Oh, no, it's not. The positions haven't changed. Okay, I can run you through on a different side. I'm watching on a different screen. GB68 is actually in 4th. He's on 48 points. Then it's Nogueira getting that podium today, now on 45. Then it's Tom97. What could have been for Tom97? Could have got another race win under his belt and really could have had a great chance of pushing for that championship here today. Razashai didn't take part today, but he's 7th. Then Meraki, who's just been consistently slightly off the pace, I'd say, but around that top 5 bubble. He's sort of been around there, but he's now in 8th position. Matty D still strong, 9th position in the championship. Then F1 Scott rounds out the top 10. Infratic P11. Tom now moves up to P12 with that podium, puts himself on 19 points for the season. Then it's Perya, Zafso, MSkyZ. Struggles continue. No points scored yet again today. He's down in 15th position. Then it's Curbs, Gwats, Unstop Rob, Mr. Dale, and that guy Vince is our final point scorer from our full-time drivers.
Well, the one thing I think that really shows right now is that, yes, the top 3 are close, but how does 4th through 8th, Hayden, split by 5 points sound?
That is so close. And that's what we love about this point system with the Creator Series, that it allows these close points battles. And it's a case of, okay, Elray Guri could have a bad race next week or miss a race, and then everybody's all of a sudden hot on his heels, and it's really close. Ever since we've done this points change, every championship has come down to the wire and has all been very, very close season upon season. So this could happen once again for us. It's a longer season than what we have seen in recent ones, but of course, it's going to be very, very close in that little battle. But for all of those guys, they're not really going to be too focused about GB68 thinking, I've got to beat Nigera, or I want to beat Tom 97. No, they all want to maximize their results to try and be like, I can get Elray Guri, or I can get up there with Alex Gillen up in front and fight those guys for the championship.
Absolutely. I do want to bring in TK one last time here, just before we head ourselves off, because this has been a wonderful bit of action that we've seen here at Barcelona. TK, 1 week from today, it is sprint and feature over in Spielberg. That is going to be one of the most amazing battlegrounds that we're going to see right before the break in the season of 1 week.
Yeah, absolutely right. We've gone off the back of three or four fantastic weeks here in the Creator Series. Of course, going to Austria next week, a fantastic battleground where some of the best content creators will go toe-to-toe in the hills of Spielberg. And then, of course, like you said, that break week coming up, so their drivers will get a chance to have a little bit of a rest, have a bit of relaxation before coming back to fight it tooth and nail until our season closer.
Well, that's going to be absolutely fantastic to get through, and that will bring a curtain to a close here today with the EA Creator Series here from Barcelona. From the work that's been done over in F2 to where we have been right now, you can catch all of our socials up there where you can follow us: YouTube, Instagram, X, TikTok. You can get us all there. You can catch all our links in the Twitch chat as well, so you can make sure you can keep all of us in play as well, keeping track of what we're all doing when we've got all of the time. 1 week from today, it is sprint and feature when we head to Spielberg. That is going to be big at the Red Bull Ring, and you definitely want to be back with us and tuning in for what is going to be some incredible racing action. Everything is sat on a precipice, and through all of what has happened, it is a gain for Elray Giri on home soil. The lead now back up to 7 over Alex Gillen, but opportunities were left on the table, and that's where Tiamat Marduk walks in, makes sure that he's got his water wings on, and says, I'm not out without a fight. We've got 3 fighting for this championship. The Creator Series moves on. Bring on the Red Bull Ring. We'll see you next week.